Oh, look. We're live. Hello, everybody. Though I guess not too many people are in yet. Of course not. Probably somebody else is doing a live stream. Shocker. I should probably change the time, because I had this problem last stream that I did. Some asshole was like, I'm going to stream at exactly the same time as Adam. And everyone went over to that instead of mine.
We'll start at 9:04 next time.
9:04 exactly.
Exactly
at 9:04. Alright. So, hello everyone. Welcome to this live stream here at ANP. Joining me is none other than Jim Frasca. James Frasca, as some would call him formally. So Jim, tell us a little bit about your awkward self, and stop looking at this screen.
I'm looking at you.
Only I'm allowed to look at this screen. And what do you do here at ANP? What is your primary point of existence?
I'm usually director of photography, camera operator. So I'm the guy that usually most of the time is the person actually holding the camera and not literally calling the shots, but actually doing the shots.
So, whoa, look at that.
Nice.
That's the problem with that webcam, is it's so wide. It captures everything.
Yeah, you were saying it's like a 10 or 12?
Yeah, it's an 80-degree field of view.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's not ridiculous, it's kind of awesome. But yeah, he's the guy that shoots most of my shit. Most of it. Sometimes he's lazy and doesn't like to show up on set, so then I have to do it, or I have to get somebody else to do it. But, yeah. So, I better go to the main screen. I want to be able to see my chat. There we go. Okay. So, I'm glad Antonio's here. Antonio, hello, baby. How you doing? Yeah, Jim dressed for the occasion. Well, of course he is. We're going to be talking about Star Trek at some point. And okay. Full disclosure, I think I'm a bigger Star Trek nerd than you because I've seen everything.
By far.
But he's got more memorabilia than I do. Like, I could care less about that shit.
I actually almost brought, I have a, 2-foot tall model of Enterprise D.
See, I don't.
I also have Vulcan ears. This is metal, it's not plastic.
This is the plastic one.
That's my spare.
Well, you see, I want to, I'm in full... What is that? That's a lieutenant commander's rank, isn't it?
Lieutenant commander.
See, he knows that stuff, but I don't. See, I'm more of the lore guy.
Yeah.
Than even though I can say that I don't know nothing about what CBS has decided to rape the lore with. So, and
we'll
plus,
get into that.
I'll fully disclose too that Star Trek only likes its lore when it's convenient for them. They tend to break their own continuity quite a bit. So. But so let's do you mind whether Kong or Godzilla wins this year? You could probably answer that one too.
What?
Do you mind whether Kong or Godzilla wins in the new Kong versus Godzilla movie that's coming out?
From my very limited knowledge of Godzilla, see, I have seen the new ones with Adam, none of the older ones. Maybe one just because we were hanging out one time.
Yeah.
But I would say if Kong won, I would be greatly disappointed because he's much smaller and Godzilla's Godzilla. Like,
Godzilla is the king of the monsters. He has that title for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, even in just this most recent movie, he went up against, 2?
I know, that's the thing. Like, he went up against King Ghidorah.
Yeah. So what, is there really going to be a fight?
Yeah. Well, here's my hypothesis, and I've always been saying this, is that Godzilla and Kong are going to fight for 5 minutes in the movie, and then there's going to be another monster that comes in where, oh no, now Godzilla and Kong have to team up.
It's going to be a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, they're going to have uniforms and everything.
No, but yeah, I agree
ships.
that they're going to have to work together to overcome this new threat.
Well, Batman v Superman. They're going to do that. Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we officially really begin, I have some more of Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Head vodka. This is actually the same bottle that we used for that episode of Fat Man, Little Boy. As you can see, there's a lot less because Adam's an alcoholic now. And I was going to pour a shot for this, and
But first, going back to memorabilia, if anybody's a Star Trek fan, they'll probably get that reference. Adam asked me to bring a shot glass tonight, and this is the only shot glass I have. It's actually the first time
Of course.
using it.
Of course. Because why else would you...
Oh my god.
Would you get, I see, I the last time I did shots, it was with sake.
Oh, sake is strong.
Yeah, you're telling me, but anyways.
I was smelling
Oh, you were
it.
sniffing it?
Yes.
Okay, well, here we go.
Ooh.
But you see, how it's smooth?
Yeah, that wasn't terrible.
And now I'm feeling it.
Yep.
And now I'm feeling it. You see... You're such a pussy.
That was actually pretty good. I could do that again.
The reason why we keep looking over here is because our monitor is over this way. But Trevor, you are absolutely right when it comes to... It doesn't matter if Kong or Godzilla wins in this fight.
Oh.
All that matters is a good story. Give us a good fucking story, and I don't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't care who won the fight as long as I care about the characters and there's a good story. And I'm not just looking left to see the TV. Also, Adam is to my left. So if it looks like I'm looking at the TV a lot, it's because I'm actually looking at Adam.
I'm kind of switching this thing too, so I kind of have to look left every once in a while. But anyways, see, yeah, that's the thing, because there's plenty of movies where Godzilla loses. There's actually, I would say, a good third of them. He's usually the bad guy, and he loses. Like in the original Mothra vs. Godzilla, which is a lot of people's go-to Godzilla movie, he loses because he fights Mothra, and Mothra beats Godzilla because she outsmarts him.
Makes sense.
And I'm like, okay, cool. She doesn't beat him through sheer power. She knows, or the larvas, they know that they can't beat Godzilla just through a fight. So they outsmart him. They outflank him. There's strategy behind him. I'm like, okay, and you get invested behind that.
Now, is that why everybody likes Mothra? Because I've heard quite a bit about Mothra.
Mothra, I'll say this, and I did a podcast about this as well. That'll be coming out in a few weeks. But I would say Mothra is probably, underneath Godzilla and Kong, is probably the third most popular monster. Yeah. Giant monster, anyways, out there.
Yeah, I mean, she's in a lot of the video games. I know that.
I know, and a lot of people know the song. There's Mothra has a song that the fairies will call to her, and she'll come to them. If you just hear it, people tend to go, "Oh, that's Mothra," and I can't think of many other, monsters out there that can be recognized simply by a song, other than Godzilla. Godzilla can be recognized by a theme.
Yeah.
To the point that SNL actually did that. They were doing that, and that was part of the joke, was the music. But yeah, just give me a good story.
Yeah, that's all I would really care about. I'm not in it hugely for the lore and overarching story, but I will sit down and watch a Godzilla film if the story is enticing.
And I'd say, and I'm not afraid to say this either, I say that there's actually a lot of good story Godzilla movies out there. And we were talking about Godzilla GMK, which was the 2001 design, which was the one that had the glassed over eyes that you said looked pretty terrifying. Okay. I was like, he's the embodiment of all the souls lost during World War II, and he's just they're taking out their rage on Japan because they have forgotten what happened.
Which, that makes me want to actually sit down and watch this
and I'm
movie.
like, it's an excellent film.
Yeah.
I would say it's in the top 5. It's an excellent film. But that's one that I usually recommend the most. It's more fairy tale-ish, more fantasy than sci-fi.
Yeah,
but it works. It works within that film. Kind of like how Shin Godzilla, which you saw with me in theaters. Yep. I dragged you to that.
And all of them.
Yeah. Just like when Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, I know damn well I'm going to drag you to that.
I'm going. It's okay.
But Shin Godzilla, that's very scientific based, based in reality. GMK is very fantasy in its presentation. like it takes place in reality, but like there's spirits and everything like that are kind of resurrecting. Which on the surface, I agree. On the surface, I'm like, I don't like that as much, but that movie made it work. It made it work really well.
When I think of Godzilla, I think of somewhat based in reality, because he's from this radiation thing. And if you tell me that there's spirits and Earthas or whatever they're called, auras, that kind of makes me like, really?
Well, yeah, it's heavily hinted because it's clear in GMK that the very first original 1954 Godzilla happened, and it's hinted that what the spirits did is they embodied the dead Godzilla from that film and resurrected it. So this is kind of like a zombie Godzilla, if you really kind of look at it. And there's also these three other monsters. There's King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Baragon, which are called the Guardian monsters, which were like these old gods that people of Japan used to worship, and their sole purpose was to protect the Earth. And so they start coming back because Godzilla's come back and everything like that. It's a really good movie. And a completely new take on just about all the monsters, too.
You're making me want to go watch this movie now, next time we hang out.
It's really good. And the special effects are phenomenal. And because they're so practical in that film, and they're phenomenal. Like, some of the best I've seen in a Godzilla film.
I hate to cut you off. Normally when I take a shot, I'm still feeling it, like, 5-10 minutes later. We've been speaking for about 5-10 minutes now. This was smooth. I took one sip of my drink. I don't taste it at all. I'm not getting like rosy cheek like I normally do. I feel like this is dangerous, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You take 3 shots of that.
It's called a creeper.
Yeah,
like I'm still feeling it here. Like I've still got that.
I don't feel anything.
Well, look at that.
That's because I had some Diet Dr. Kelp.
Right. But yeah, you see, they're saying it. You should watch GMK.
The
title is ridiculous. It's Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. That's the title of the movie.
I'm sold.
Rolls off the
Justin.
tongue.
I'm sold. Speaking of you. Did it. Next time we hang out. See, actually, before we started this, we were talking. Both of kind of our goals for the year is to watch movies. Not necessarily movies that we haven't seen, but just movies in general. And we were talking about, obviously, Star Trek. And how I haven't seen any of the Star Trek movies, but I love the TV series.
You've seen all of the shows.
And
I'd say you're far more familiar with the shows than I am.
Yeah.
Because I tend to watch the movies more than I do the shows. Like Voyager and Enterprise, I need to rewatch those. I mean, I haven't seen those since high school.
Yeah, so. I'm about halfway through Voyager. But like I was saying, we were trying to think of movies that we should watch, and well, of course, I just got the 4 TNG movies, so we're going to watch those. But then, this is something else that we can watch. This, if you have any other movie suggestions for Adam and I to watch, maybe not even, we don't have to talk about it, but just, I'm all open. Just give a short description of why you think I should watch this movie. For Adam.
Yeah, well, my audience knows kind of what I would like. They've listened to me enough that they're like, I think you would like this movie and stuff like that.
That's true.
Jim's not really on much of... You're really not on much of what I do outside of...
No.
Like skits and films and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're on you're prominent on frugal filmmaking, and that's about it. And we haven't done frugal filmmaking forever.
Yeah, and even then we're not really just talking like this. We're working.
Yeah.
So although we are goofing around, it does tend to be more work than play.
And plus, those are always very heavily edited.
Yeah,
so
you don't see the
90% of those clips of us filming are usually us just sitting there working, or me directing or something like that. Yeah. It's nothing interesting.
Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this little stream, however long we're going, I think an hour or 2, maybe you will get to know me a little bit better, and like I said, suggest a movie, and if I ever come on the show again, maybe I'll give my thoughts.
So speaking of Star Trek, let's talk about Star Wars and good stories and stuff like that, because I want to talk about Star Wars. You went to see... You're not a fan of Star Wars.
I would say that I am the average Star Wars fan. I'm the person that they're making the movies for. They're not making these movies for the diehard fan, and they're not really making them either for any newcomers. I mean, maybe the first one of this trilogy is to bring the newcomers in, but a perfect example is my girlfriend and I watched Rise of Skywalker, and she had no idea what was going on because she'd never seen any Star Wars movie. But I have seen them all once, maybe twice. I'm not huge into the lore. So yeah, I'm the target audience, not a huge fan.
That's actually kind of like me. Like I'm a bigger fan than your average person, but I wouldn't even really call myself a fan of it. It's just because I sort of dove into it and just started watching a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like pretty much the original trilogy, and I mean the original trilogy, not the specialized editions, the original versions are great. They are some of the the greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
I like Star Wars Rebels, which to me was the best thing that's actually come out of the Disney stuff. Star Wars Rebels.
TV
It was a TV show. It was an animated TV show.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's 4 seasons, so it's not like crazy long, and each episode's a half hour.
Was it canceled or did they end it?
They ended it.
Okay,
It wasn't canceled.
That's a good thing, though.
And from what I hear, because basically The Mandalorian is apparently like a spaghetti western, but sci-fi.
Mandalorian's amazing.
I would probably really like Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I like Rogue One. Rogue One was okay, and the only reason why I go back to Rogue One is because of that final act.
But isn't Rogue One not part of the trilogy?
No. It's Rogue One is separate. It's its own film.
Out of the new Star Wars movies, it's the best one, and it's not part of the trilogy.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's a part of the saga. It's not a part of the trilogy. Solo was awful. I hated Solo.
I didn't even see Solo.
I didn't see it in theaters. I refused to go see it.
Metacritic score was 70, I think.
Though, admittedly, and this kind of goes into The Force Awakens. No. Well, actually, the Star Wars trilogy that just ended. But the production is what made me hate Solo the most. Because like they were about like a quarter of the way through shooting it. And Disney themselves, I don't know if it was Kathleen Kennedy. I think Kathleen Kennedy, who is sort of heading Lucasfilms, gets poo-pooed on. Admittedly, she was by me for quite a while. Gets poo-pooed on a little bit more than she deserves. I think it's really the higher-ups at Disney that are really pushing a lot of this shit. But like halfway through, a quarter of the way through shooting of Solo, they completely fired the 2 directors. Had somebody come in, completely rewrite the script, reshot it from. Already had spent like $100 million on it, and just said burn it. I'm like, that's a problem.
Big problem.
At that point, just if they really didn't like what was going on, they already spent. No. I would actually say we spent $100 million. You'd have one of 2 options. One, can it and eat the losses, which they could do. It's Disney.
I would have preferred that, with all this stuff.
Or punch your way through it, just get it out. That's the other option. And personally, that's the option I would have taken because of I've already spent that much money. Might as well just go through with it.
With Disney, even if they make a little bit of money off of it, it's better than nothing. I don't think that they would really be eating it, and they're not going to get negative feedback. I mean, Rise of Skywalker on Metacritic is the lowest rated Star Wars film. And it's
Rise of Skywalker is?
Yeah, it was
really.
It was sitting at like a 57 opening weekend, and it still made a ton of money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It broke box office records for a Thursday night. It did the best out of any movie ever in America, which is crazy especially after getting all of these negative reviews.
So.
We're reading comments.
Yeah, I'm reading.
Sorry.
Oh, Sven Gulli. I love Sven Gulli.
I check him out every once in a while.
He's playing It Came From Outer Space. Well, I like him because he just plays those cheesy horror and sci-fi films.
And he's super cheesy, too.
Oh, he's so
sitting
cheesy.
In the bathtub
he fits that tone because stuff like that was very popular in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And he's kind of copying that. And
he's doing a callback to it.
Yeah, totally on board with
get it.
There's also another TV channel, which of course I bet you everyone has heard it, but Comet. Comet does nothing but play science fiction films all day, and I love them. Even though they have commercial breaks, which I don't like, but you got to make money somehow. I will just have them on at work in the background because they allow you to watch it for free on their website. Tune into their stream.
Do they have ads or something then?
Well, they have breaks because it depends on what region you're in, depends on what commercial is playing, and so what you'll see on like their website is "We'll be back soon." and I'll just have them on in the background just to support them. Just because I really love their mental. Like, they play Stargate SG-1, they have Godzilla marathons.
Oh, I need to get it.
They play I think they play Star Trek a couple of times, so I think CBS basically owns Star Trek.
I need to get back.
But like they play V all the time. I love V. The Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, they do all that stuff, and it's great. They played The Food of the Gods yesterday. I watched that at work.
I typically, this is why, we're saying that I'm a little bit more of a nerd with the show. I will have my Bluetooth headphones in when I'm editing at work, and I'll watch Voyager or whatever I'm, currently watching through. I'm on my...
I don't know why you're so obsessed with Voyager. That's like
I'm not
of the shows.
I'm not obsessed with Voyager. It's exactly the opposite. It takes me so long to get through it because I'm not as big of a fan of it, and that's why I talk about it more.
You got through Deep Space Nine pretty quick.
Because I love Deep Space Nine. I think
you suffered through like the first 2 seasons.
Because I said that too when I was watching it. I was like, Adam, this is your favorite series?
This is your favorite of the show?
Why?
And I'm like, you got to suffer through those first 2 seasons. I promise. It gets really good.
Yeah, it did. And I don't think it's my favorite. I think TNG is still my favorite. But Voyager just... With TNG and DS9, I can easily watch 3, 4, 5 episodes in a day. Voyager, maybe 2? I have a hard time getting through it. And I really liked Enterprise, too. I wish that it didn't get canceled.
Enterprise got really good 3 and 4.
Yes.
Seasons 3 and 4 are really good. Seasons 1 and 2 had a couple of good episodes. Other than that, I didn't really care for it. But it was a little bit like too little too late, because by season 3, most of the audience had left because seasons 1 and 2 were so bad, and that's why there's only 4 seasons.
They definitely weren't as good, and I think part of the reason that 3 and 4 were doing well is because Jeffrey Combs came back and he was a reoccurring character with Shran.
Dude.
And Shran is amazing.
When I heard what they wanted to do for season 5 of Enterprise,
yep,
the fucking Romulan Wars,
and
my mouth was just watering.
They started teasing it, in season 4 more so. They had episodes with Romulans in it, but like the Enterprise crew didn't really know anything about the Romulans other than what the Vulcans were telling them.
Well, yeah, it was doing Deep Space Nine because forever they weren't showing us what the Dominion were, but they would name drop it.
Oh yeah,
like whenever somebody from what quadrant was that?
The Gamma Quadrant.
The Gamma Quadrant or something like that. Whenever they come through the wormhole, there was that species that the Universal Translator was having a hard time picking up the translator for it. That was the first episode that I noticed this, but they kept saying we needed to get away from the Dominion.
Yeah, and like you said, they kept name dropping it, but if I remember correctly, they kind of name dropped it the first time when Quark went through the wormhole.
Did. Yep.
And the writers had no idea what the Dominion was.
That's the common running theme.
But speaking of DS9, Quark and Odo, not Quark, sorry, Nog and Odo, rest in peace.
Yeah, I know, rip. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
I wasn't really broken up by the actor who played Nog. Aaron Eisenberg.
Yeah,
Aaron Eisenberg. But
Rene
Auberjonois, because he plays a character in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. He's not Odo, but he plays a colonel.
Yeah.
And if you watch the director's cut, he has a bigger role in it. But he's played in like Boston Legal. He's played in a shit ton of stuff that I love.
He was probably my favorite character, maybe second favorite character in DS9. Mainly because he chose what he thought to be justice over his own home.
Did the critics like The Last Jedi? You know what? I think they did. I think the critics... That was because
Last
that was...
Jedi, I think, had like an 80, so I think it was pretty high.
Yeah, because that was when
Awakens too.
I started noticing this widening gap between critics and the audience.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Which is still there, by the way. And...
Because I think... slightly off topic here, but I noticed a big...
I had it with Ghostbusters.
The Witcher just came out, and I saw the Metacritic reviews first, and it was like a 5.5.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's garbage. High. But then you look at the user score, and it was like a 72 or 73.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. They might be these people might not have liked it because they thought it was about the video game where it's actually based off the book.
A lot of the bias that I've seen from like critics, not audience critics, I mean just critics, has been the bias against video games, because there's still a huge stigma in specifically our field that video games are not art, and I disagree with that full-heartedly, because I look at like The Last of Us in particular.
Beautiful.
That's art. Not only like gameplay-wise and the visuals in it, but just the story, the acting, the writing, art.
That's one of the reasons. I don't have the patience to play The Last of Us, so I did. I watched a walkthrough just for the story. That is art. It is a great story.
Oh, it's so good. I'm psyched for The Last of Us 2.
Part 2. A lot of people, like, from the YouTube channels that I watch, they're a little more skeptical about it because the story ended.
Too. I agree. Because if somebody handed me said you need to make a sequel to The Last of Us, I would have had it set in England. I would have had it a completely different story within this universe. Because it's such a vast universe that I'd like, you could do that, no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm liking how now Ellie's become the main character, and now Joel is clearly kind of becoming the side character. Yeah. Which I'm okay with that, because maybe they're playing with an idea of generations. Maybe I'm not sure.
I think that's safe to assume.
And I'm going to say easily, I think Joel is going to die, and I think it's going to be because of his decision that he made in the first game. That end decision, which by the way, I am completely on Joel's side. I think what Joel did was right.
I honestly don't remember.
Oh.
Well, we're not gonna spoil it anyway. Go play the game. Go watch it.
Trevor, watch Deep Space Nine.
Dude,
watch Deep Space Nine.
Get through the first 2 seasons. If you like TNG, a character comes back. He's awesome.
Worf is in it.
I was gonna give a hint. No,
because
I'm
going to
to 10
say...
centimeters. You may now give birth. That's all I was going to say.
You have now dilated to 10 centimeters. Death to the opposition!
I remember.
Find him and kill him!
I got to that scene, the second watch through of TNG, and I just sent it to you. Just that one.
Yeah.
Death to the opposition.
Death to the opposition.
Find him and kill him.
That episode. I can't get over how much of a can of fresh air that episode of Deep Space Nine was, where they play baseball against the Vulcans.
Yeah.
When I first heard that that's what that episode was going to be about, I was like, really?
Yeah.
But it was such a can of fresh air.
When I got to it, same thing. Especially my first walkthrough of all of TNG, not TNG, sorry, Star Trek. Because I only started about 2 years ago and I became a super big fan. But every episode I'd watch, before the intro comes in, the theme song, and I would message Adam usually and be like, I think this episode's going to be stupid. And then every time at the end of the episode, nope, alright, that was amazing.
Yeah, there were several Ferengi-centric episodes, and I'm like, oh great, another one.
Yeah.
And then I'd wind up being engrossed with it. The one that comes to my mind is the one where they go onto that other Deep Space Nine kind of ship.
Yeah, 8 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And like they accidentally kill one of the Vorta.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be the worst episode. And then it had me laughing the entire way through.
Because Ferengis aren't fighters, and the only one in that ragtag group that was a fighter was the assassin, but he couldn't take direction.
No.
It was a great episode.
And Star Trek Deep Space Nine was definitely the show that surprised me the most out of them all. I mean, it was just really good. And again, that episode, because the rest of that season is really so serious. Heavy.
Yeah, really dark.
And I mean heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
And so that episode was just a good little calm before the storm. It was a good little, okay, you can breathe a little bit. And that's what that show did very well. That show knew when sometimes to take a break and then go back. And I really like that. Let's see. The best of the Star Trek movies with the original cast, The Wrath of Khan. Well, The Wrath of Khan, I think, is objectively the best one. It's the one that everyone genuinely says is a great film. However, it's not my favorite. My favorite one is Star Trek 3 because of Kirk, and that's about it. The Voyage Home is so much fun. They travel back in time, and it's the whale one. You probably have seen jokes about it. Yeah. But it's so funny.
See, I haven't watched any of the movies. I got them for Christmas, so I will start to watch them. The only reason I watched all the TV series is because they're on Netflix, and I already had Netflix. I don't have a ton of money to go out and buy movies, and with being in the film field, I don't want to acquire them other ways because that's depriving my own people.
These are even the TNG movies, which I don't think are excellent films. I still wanted those. Like, I wanted to buy a physical copy of those.
All 4 of them were $20.
Yeah.
They're really cheap now. You know, last time I checked, it was like, you know, $10, $15 for one. And that's why I never got them, because I don't want to pay that. But for Christmas, they were on sale at Walmart, $20, all 4 movies. And I was like, all right, I got to do it now. You can't beat that for legitimately getting them.
Trevor, you left out the motion picture in that list, which I understand. A lot of people don't like the motion picture. I'm going to actually highly recommend to you, Trevor, to find a copy of the DVD for the director's edition, the director's cut of that film. Generally fixes a lot of the problems. Generally, Mothra. It generally fixes a lot of the problems with the motion picture, which, by the way, I think the motion picture is a good movie. I really love that film. I went to go see it in theaters for the 40th anniversary release of it, and that was great. That was great. They even included the overture. Like, that was one of the last movies to have, like, an overture before the film began. And it was great. It was great. I loved it. But definitely the movies that you listed. Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, and The Undiscovered Country. From the original movies, those 4 films do flow together into, like, one long story arc.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, those ones do. I would even say the motion picture does for Spock, because Spock is by far the most rounded character in the motion picture. He's got the most interesting character within that film. I would say if you watch the motion picture, you'll appreciate Spock more in the original movies.
So we're going... I feel like it's time... We've been pushing it off. You don't want to talk about it.
No, I don't.
Discovery, we both agree...
Shit.
...is bad.
What is that?
I know some people really do like it. I gave the first season an honest try.
I know. And I gave up after, like, episode 3.
After Giorgio came over into this universe and ended up somehow getting to be a captain on a black ship, no. Just no. That's not okay. But we both agree that is bad. Mm-hmm. Picard. I'm giving it a chance.
Now, apparently a new teaser was released today. I didn't watch any of it. But, you see, here's actually why I don't want to watch Picard. And that's because, one, I think his character is complete. His arc was completed in Nemesis, for good and for bad. And especially in the show. But I could get involved with something with Picard, because I think you can do more, because he's such a diplomat. But they went with such a generic story. Because it's like, she is... As soon as the trailer said she's the key to all of this, I was done.
Yeah.
I was done.
A lot of people are saying that too. I have a feeling that this might be... Hey, bringing it full circle here with Godzilla. I feel like this is going to be Bryan Cranston in whatever that Godzilla film was.
2014.
2014. Yeah. He's in all of the ads, but it's not about him. It's about his son. They just put him in there to have to get the attention.
It's called Picard, but Picard ultimately isn't going to be the focus of the show.
Yeah, I think he's going to take a backseat.
Yeah, and you see, I have such a big fucking problem with that. And plus, that story has been done so many times, time and time again. To be, if somebody came to me and said, Adam, I want you to write a series for Picard or something like that, I would have made it almost completely about the Borg. The Borg have finally gathered their resources, and they're coming. So the entire series, this would have worked better if they did this for the movies, because back then they didn't have all the shit that Voyager did, which in my opinion ruined the Borg.
Yes, but didn't Janeway destroy the Borg?
Yes.
So I mean, you can't
really do that anymore.
But I get what you're saying. You know, so many times in Voyager, they find a planet with 5 Borg on it, 2 Borg on it, 100 Borg on it that have defected. You could make a story with Picard with a defected subunit that actually ended up trying to rebuild the Borg. That would be interesting. I know he's looking at.
Yeah, well,
comments.
I was looking at the comments, seeing it. You try refreshing it because we're not really having any problems over here. But anyways, if they handed me those movies, I would have made the movies all about Picard having to maybe come out of retirement, gather a crew, and his entire story, the entire story arc, the Borg would just be a backdrop. Because I always think the Borg work best not as, well, they can be your main antagonists, but they're more of like a backdrop, like zombies. To me, zombies shouldn't be your number one enemy.
It's PvP.
Yeah.
Person versus person.
Yeah, and it would have literally been about Picard trying to smooth out these edges and unite us and the Cardassians, us and the Romulans, us and the Klingons, and work out all these things to be like, we got to fight the Borg. The Borg are coming.
He by far is the most diplomatic out of
absolutely
himself.
He's the diplomat.
Why am I drawing blanks? Janeway, Archer, and DS9. Cisco. He's by far the most
Cisco's
diplomatic.
the militarist.
Yeah.
Cisco is definitely the militarist. Because, see, this is part of my problem with seasons 1 and 2. They were trying to treat him like a Picard.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No.
Because as soon as the war with the Dominion begins, like, he is in charge.
Well,
and he's great at that.
The turning point for me is when that Marquis ship was trying to leave.
That was a missed opportunity.
And Cisco said to fire on it. Obviously, they...
Oh, that was such a good episode,
They
though.
didn't.
Yeah.
You know, the Maquis turned themselves in, but just firing that first round, I was like, all right, that's it. I like Cisco. He is not one to mess with.
They have to make peace with the Kardashians, yes. Now, the Kardashians
That's
wish...
not possible. I can't.
No, they have to be killed. They have to be annihilated.
Just kill them.
Just kill them. Now, the Cardassians...
Great enemy.
Oh, yes. They have a great design, too. Like, I love that sort of snake.
Arc?
Yeah,
oh
Legate Damar.
Goodness.
Legate Damar was one of those characters I was like, pfft, like when he was first introduced, and then he becomes the lead. I'm like,
and I don't know if the writers intended that from the beginning, but having Kira teaching them how to rebel against.
I loved that.
That's a gene, and that's why it's good.
And then there was like a bit because the Cardassians occupied Bajor, and she's from Bajor, and they raped Bajor.
And now she's going to Cardassia.
To help them. And I love it how the Dominion really, like, just mass slaughter, like, thousands of Cardassians because of this uprising. And he's like, how could they do that to innocents? And I just love it when Kira just looks at him and goes, yeah, how could they do that? Because when they were doing that to her. Yeah. Which, by the way, Kira's arc is fantastic.
I like Kira. I
like Odo's arc, too. I really do.
I think DS9 had the best character development because I feel like Jadzia and Worf was absolutely amazing. I didn't feel that wasn't forced at all.
Yeah.
But you know, Riker and Deanna, that was so forced.
That was. However, I think they have good chemistry in the movies. That is brought up in the movies. I think they're fine in the films.
But then you have in Voyager, you have Paris and B'Elanna. You know, 2 seasons later, okay, I get it. They're married and they do love each other.
Don't they have a kid? Was it Paris?
No, Naomi Wildman is the only kid on. Does she?
Because I remember 2 of them had like children.
I know
because I remember Tuvok having a really good character moment when he was very Vulcan. He goes, "Expect great contradictions," meaning that parenthood is terrifying and it can be awful, but it's wonderful at the same time. And I really like that.
I can't remember.
And I want to say it was to Paris.
Yes, it was. It was to Paris. But there also is Naomi Wildman, and then there are the 2 Borg defects. I'm trying to think of the older one's name. Inyanu. Something like that, whatever. He follows me on Twitter, by the way, which is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I only follow like 20 people on Twitter, and he followed me back. Like, that's awesome. Ianu something. But anyway,
you're right, Trevor, by the way.
Their relationship was super forced, and the T'Pau...
Most of the relationships I see in Star Trek are very forced.
But Jadzia and Worf, I felt was
one of the few that I genuinely was on board with.
Although I feel like Michael Dorn was much older than Terry,
because
whatever.
He He was.
And that was the only offsetting part, but I could totally get it because a Trill lives longer than a normal person.
The one that I thought would have been interesting that the writers were originally going to do, but the actress who played Kira pushed back on so bad, was the writers wanted to do more stuff with oh come on, the main bad guy Cardassian. What's his name? Dukat. They were going to have him and Kira be a thing.
No. I would have loved she pushed back. No.
I would have liked that. I would have liked it because here's what happens. They sort of even each other out. She sort of brings him into the good, realizes what he's done wrong, and yet at the same time she opens up to the Cardassians a little bit more. However, I love what they do with her and her like adopted Cardassian dad.
Yes,
that was in a few episodes. I loved that.
So two things before we move on. I could see her getting with Damar, not Dukat.
Nah.
I think that would have been
Damar
better.
was married.
I don't care. But Dukat did love Kira's mom.
That was Dukat, yeah.
In that one episode, and
again, that was after they decided not to do anything.
She didn't necessarily love him back, but she didn't hate him either because that meant that Kira was relatively safe. So I kind of like that, having Dukat be so obsessed with getting her approval is what drew him mad. And I love that. DS9 was so good and so well thought out up until the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'll actually agree with you there. The last 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine were very rushed because they weren't quite sure what to do. First off, what was rushed was the Dukat stuff.
Yes.
That's what was rushed, and because they didn't know...
The priest lady.
The priest lady, I forgot her name. She's great. She won an Academy Award before that.
She's amazing actress.
She was an amazing actress. She played such a good character you loved to hate.
Yes.
She did that so well.
Every time she was in an episode, or I saw her name, which I'm drawing a blank on, in the credits, my immediate reaction was, oh, what a bitch. Excuse my language. She's going to
be in this.
But then it was... Oh, I can't wait to see what she does.
I know.
I hated her, but I loved to see how Kira was going to throw it back in her face somehow. Or Cisco.
Well, Trevor, to talk about the Borg, because you're bringing that up, the original idea of the Borg was just that. There was no queen. There was no...
Perfection. That's all there was.
Yeah, it was them trying to assimilate.
Omega.
And, yeah. And the Borg, the idea of an individual to me... in terms of the Borg collective, is so anti-Borg, and that's my problem with First Contact. First Contact, the movie, is by far the best one out of the TNG movies. It's generally a good movie, but she's the weakest part because that's what introduces the idea of the Borg Queen, and I hate that. I hate that so much.
Yeah, when I saw her show up in Voyager, which you said that was shortly before the movie came out. Mm-hmm. Again, I haven't seen the movies. Mm-hmm. But when I saw her in Voyager and they started explaining what she was, I just immediately, okay, this is stupid. And yes, they ruined the Borg. But then you get some
Best
episodes...
of both worlds, man. Best of both worlds of TNG. It's like the best of Star Trek.
That's the one with Hugh, right?
No, that's the one where Picard gets assimilated.
Oh, right.
That episode, those 2 episodes, I remember my father was like, "Oh, I hated that," and not because the episodes were bad, but because they had like the best, most famous cliffhanger ever.
Yeah,
it ends with Riker going fire, and that's the end of the season.
That was something that both TNG and DS9 were really good about, leaving you on a cliffhanger, and I am so grateful. Netflix, next season. I know, yeah. Until, I think actually when I got halfway through DS9, I think you actually told me, when you get to an end of a season, wait a day, wait 2 days.
Yes.
Just to build that suspension. And I did, and that really drove
that is the benefit of not binge watching, having to wait a week. That's the benefit of that, is that you're like, oh my god, you can speculate, you can breathe, and just start guessing. That's one of the bad things about binge. However, I love binging, so it's...
I don't think that the Borg Queen ruined Voyager. I think what ruined Voyager is there's no consistency, because they're consistently traveling through space, so you might get 3 episodes, maybe 4 with the same alien race that they're encountering with, but they just move on, and I get it. That's space. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But
Well, I would have made Voyager is, and I've told you this many times. Voyager is the definition of potential wasted, because like it should have been a survival story in space. The fact that and again, I said this to you in passing during the show. I said the Maquis were complete waste of potential. Because in Voyager they just assimilate to be a part of the crew within 2 episodes.
They only have like one uprising thing, and then Tuvok's makes a hologram program of it too, so it's not even real.
Yes, yeah.
But if they
kept having to hit, that's the problem with Star Trek, in my opinion, is they kept. It's called the Roddenberry box. They have to hit reset at the end of every episode,
which is stupid.
Yes.
It's just so stupid, and all
that's my biggest problem with TNG, and that's definitely my biggest problem with Voyager. Because to me, it's even more of a problem than Voyager.
I think TNG DS9, if they're so close right now for me as to which one I like better, but TNG overall wins, and if TNG had more overarching stories, it would be a landslide. And if I didn't have to worry about the Roddenberry effect.
Yeah, because
Roddenberry,
Roddenberry also had the idea that there shouldn't be any interpersonal conflict with your human characters, and I'm like, no.
Stupid.
That's where he also had a big problem with. He had a problem with specifically the original 6. No, the 5 of the original films with Kirk and crew, because specifically when Nicholas Meyer and Harv Bennett kind of took over. They said no. The Federation is a navy. It should be treated like a military. They should have military-esque uniforms. Roddenberry did not like that. He was very adamant, and a lot of fans are very adamant that the Federation is not a military. And to me, I look at it, Starfleet is not a military. And to me, I'm like, no, Starfleet is the military. The Federation
100%.
is not the military.
Correct.
And to me, that's where I draw the line. That's where how I usually look at it. But Roddenberry had this. He hates like Step 6 in particular, because there's a lot of humans in 6, including Kirk and Uhura and a bit of Spock. They're racist. They do not like the Klingons whatsoever. And now Kirk is given a very good reason why he hates the Klingons so much, and it's a part of his arc. And it's all a part of their characters. And there were lines that even members of the crew, the cast, would not say, because they thought it went so against what Gene Roddenberry had in mind. And Gene Roddenberry died about a month or 2 before the film was released. And his last act alive was to have his lawyer fight Nicholas Meyer and Harv Bennett to pull that movie from circulation, and to have it completely re-edited and recut and cut all that stuff out. He hated that. And to me, Star Trek 6 is one of the best movies in the series. He hated all that. Like, he would have detested Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I know.
He would have detested Deep Space Nine.
And it's one of the best. Now, GCN, Game Controller Network, saying that they hate that most TV shows are returning to that status.
Well, they got to hit that reset button at the end of each episode.
I would tend to disagree with that, because what are we? The last 3 shows that I watched that came out last year were last year, The Witcher, huge arc throughout the whole thing. Mandalorian, again, arc throughout the whole episode, and The Boys.
I love The Boys.
A huge arc, which I do too.
Yeah, that was such a good show.
I don't think I can name any show right now.
Yeah, well, now we have
serialized.
Circuit. We're serialized shows, which I love serialized shows. I've always loved that. Stuff for like Star Trek: The Next Generation, to me, should be more episodic, because that's their whole point. They are explorers. They are finding new things. It should be
a closed circuit, but there should be. I wish there were more 2-parters in it.
Absolutely, sure. I wouldn't have mind 2-parters.
But I don't think it needs to have a huge overarch.
Like what was it in Deep Space Nine? You'd have these stories that go on for like 6 episodes. There'd be like 6-parters.
The last season is
one long thing. But also, you see, I do have a problem with hitting a reset button, because the thing with TNG is that you can basically start it anywhere, and you'll be, for the most part, okay. And I think Voyager is the same way. You can almost start it anywhere, and you'll be okay. You'll understand what's going on, because they're self-contained stories, and there are benefits to that.
I think.
However, what I like, and TNG was very good at this, by like season halfway through season 3 and forward. It's called string continuity. String continuity, for those who doesn't know, is that little tiny things from a previous episode will affect certain things that happen in the next episode. For example, like what if, we were making a show or something like that, and I gave you a signed copy of something from Star Trek in your office, and you put it in your office. In the next episode, that would still be there in your office. Yeah. That's the stuff that I like. If you're going to do an episodic show.
The baseball.
Yeah, I love the baseball stuff. Yep. I love.
But see, I can also.
I love it how he leaves that there where Ducat walks into Sisko's
because
office.
he's telling him, "I'll be back.
I'll be back.
This is mine."
Yep.
I can also defend episodic because shows like The Witcher specifically, there's so much overarching. If I take a break from it for a week, I'm lost. I don't know what's happening. And that's not okay. I'm on the 4th episode, just about to start the 5th episode, and I have to rewatch episode 4 to be able to watch episode 5, and that can be a little bit annoying.
Well, that's the downside to having a serialized show, which serialized is when they all run into each other. Is that you can't just jump into that show anywhere. You have to be like invested from the beginning in order to understand what the fuck's going on. Also, I would like to say this. To go with what you're episodic, Antonio, what you're mentioning, are you talking more like Avatar The Last Airbender? Because that was very episodic, that show, but yet it had that overarching sort of sense of continuity. I think that's probably the go-to for sort of an episodic show that has that set of continuity. Legend of Korra, certainly, as well, though that was more serialized per season.
I don't think Adam's saying that you would watch the show, you wouldn't watch every episode, but if, say, The Witcher was on TV and I had already seen the entire season, I can't just watch episode 6 and know what's going on.
Well,
but I can watch season 3, episode 4 of TNG, and I will get the basis, even though I've seen all of it already. I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Here's another thing, too, and I'm not knocking you, Antonio, at all. Please don't take this as me making fun of you. You watch more cartoons. You watch more stuff that is honestly aimed towards a more younger adolescent to younger audience than stuff that The Witcher, certainly, ain't geared towards kids. Game of Thrones ain't geared for kids.
The Boys. Oh.
The Borgs. I love that.
Did you say the Borgs?
The Borgs. We have a sitcom about Borgs. That wouldn't be very entertaining, really, because they're all just a part of a hive mind. So they all would be like...
They wouldn't even talk.
Yeah. It'd just be them standing at their stations for like 12... But yeah. So it tends to be the more mature of the show that you get, that tends to be the more serialized it gets.
Although... I don't know a lot about Gravity Falls, but I know a lot of adults that do watch Gravity Falls because that's does true. Have a more adult tone.
And again, I'm not making fun of you, Antonio.
Yeah.
Because I like, again, Avatar The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra and stuff like that. But yeah, you simply never know what you're gonna miss. Which, by the way, talking about us writing and everything like that, let's talk about Star Wars again, because I did promise to talk about this. And Star Wars The Last Jedi in particular. And that goes down to your writing, because it's very clear. You mentioned, and we brought this up when we were talking about Star Trek, how they were basically winging it with each season.
Oh, yeah.
They had no idea what they were going to be doing.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, this is 3 sentences, a good friend of ours, Jake, I talked to him briefly about it, and he said, The Force Awakens says, all right, we got a plan. This is important. Mm-hmm. Then you go and see, what was the next one?
The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi, and it says, scratch that, none of it matters. And then you go see Rise of Skywalker, and it's like, wait, no, it does matter, now we're scrambling.
Yes.
And I feel like that sums it up
because there's
perfectly.
No main villain anymore, because they killed him in the Last Jedi.
Well, Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, and I still will stand by this. I think that The Last Jedi, if that was the trilogy, if that film was cut into 3 parts, and each part was 2 hours, or kind of 2 hours, you would have had a solid trilogy. And I think The Last Jedi is such a jumbled fucking mess that it's a bad movie. It's a terrible, terrible movie with potential of being so good. And it's so, and this is such a good example of people not knowing what direction they want to go in.
Yeah.
And I don't know whose fault that is. I don't know if that's Disney, if that's Kathleen Kennedy, or fucking even J.J. Abrams. Which, by the way, I'll still stand by this. J.J. Abrams can direct the fuck out of a movie.
Yeah.
Do not let him write it. Do not let him touch the screenplay. Because he can't write. He cannot write. Because he was one of the main writers for The Rise of Skywalker. It's awful.
I have to say, though, the special effects were top-notch. The lighting.
Absolutely.
Top-notch. And the acting overall was really good, with the only exceptions being John Boyega, not his fault though, and Carrie Fisher, also not her fault.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
John Boyega, simply because he's such a good character. He's a defected stormtrooper. Again, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but that's unheard of. Like, him finding that other defected stormtrooper could have been so much.
Did you notice how in the Rise of Skywalker, dumb title, in The Rise of Skywalker, he goes, "I've got to tell you something, Rey."
He loves her.
He never brings that up again.
I know, and it's stupid. The other thing, my thing with John Boyega is he's such an amazing actor. Check out some of his other movies.
I think
that
Adam
he's been in.
Driver is the saving grace of those movies.
John Boyega, I counted 3 times in the movie, instead of actually doing something to help Rey, he stands 200 feet away and just yells Rey. He's an amazing actor. That's bad writing.
Well, I like
and that's not his fault. That's all he's doing is yelling Rey.
Well, that's the thing.
Something.
You see, here's the thing with the original trilogy. A lot of people say they had no idea what they were doing with the original trilogy. They were making up with it as it went along. Not really, because George Lucas had an idea. Like, the original trilogy was originally going to be one long movie. And then the studio said, "No, dude, you gotta cut, like, a lot of that shit out." So he then basically said, "All right, well, let's just do the first act. Make that into a movie. Just the first act." And because that just happened to be a huge fucking hit, by complete happenstance, they got the okay to do another one and then another one. And so all George Lucas did was basically give them the treatment and said, "Okay, here's what needs to happen to continue the story." And then other writers took that outline and said, "All right, we're going to pen that out now." But you see, there was nothing like that in this new trilogy. And in Star Trek, there's nothing ever like that. They completely wing each season. There might be something for the season.
Yeah.
But there'll never be something that happens in season 1 has to be brought up in season 6. They're never back-end writing. It's called back-end writing.
Yeah.
Back-end writing is when you pen out everything. And great contrast with Star Trek, Babylon 5, which is very similar to Deep Space Nine in terms of tone, even in the fact that it takes place on a space station. Great fucking show. Even has a lot of Star Trek alumni in it. Babylon 5 has 5 seasons. And they knew.
The board greenlit.
Yeah. The Babylon 5, the creator, the head writer of that show, penned the entire thing out. There are things that happen in season 1 that make no sense in season 1 and don't make sense until season 5. Because he planned everything out from the ground up. See, with Star Trek, there was none of that. And you see, there's also pros and cons to writing like that. Because, like,
you can drop a word like the Dominion and figure it out later.
Figure it out later. If they had back-end writ Deep Space Nine, Garrick would not have been a thing. Garrick would have been in one episode.
Probably not.
Damar probably wouldn't be in one. You wouldn't have gotten... You see, that's the end of front-end writing. That's front-end writing. Yeah. They could cease things and be like, let's play on that. Let's play on that. Let's play on that. That's the benefit of front-end writing. Back-end writing is just... you have the benefit of being able to plan everything. Like, there's a lot of benefits to that. And so you sort of pick and choose on which version you kind of want to do.
I think if I were to write something, you could do, in a sense, have a loose back-end writing, but then still be able to put characters like Garrick or Damar into it. As long as you know what your end goal is, but you're not, this has to happen. This exact way.
Well, no, I like that George Lucas idea of the original trilogy, where it's just, you've got a treatment. Mm-hmm. This has to happen. This has to happen. It needs to be going towards this. and then you hand it to the writers to figure out the rest.
Yeah, but I'm afraid that I would lose Garrick, and Garrick.
That, and again, that's what you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose what you want, because there, as I keep saying, there are pros and cons to both versions of writing. And I'll tell you, I'm actually more of a fan of back-end writing. I'm far more of a fan of back-end writing than I am front-end writing. But front-end writing, it's easier to find opportunities.
And wouldn't you... I'm just spitballing here. If you're doing back-end writing, and say it's a show like DS9, and you know at the end the Dominion has to lose and the Cardassians have to lose, you're assuming that you're going to get 7 seasons. What if you only get 4? Then you're kind of screwed for your.
Well, then you'd be coming up. Yeah, then you'd be. Yes, absolutely. And again, that's
whereas
one
you
of
could
the
plan a
cons.
little bit more for with the front end writing.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the cons of being like if Babylon 5 got canceled in season 3, things would make a lot and then wouldn't make sense at all.
I think that would work a lot better in a trilogy, or like you're saying, like what Lucas did. And because you know that you're going to get a trilogy. If you sign off that you're doing a trilogy, you're doing a trilogy, even if the first 2 bomb. Well, it's going to happen.
I will say this. It's much easier, and this is kind of... Because I think maybe the hybrid theory did exist, because it's much easier for you to plan out a season than for you to plan out 4 or 5 or 7 seasons.
Right.
By the way, Trevor, you're absolutely right. George Lucas had the ideas... but they were refined as they went along by the writers. That's exactly what happened, and it worked beautifully. Stuff like that.
You know who that reminds me of a lot? Right. You saying that? This is changing gears a little bit. I don't know if any of you liked the Norman Reedus game with Kojima. Oh my goodness.
Oh fuck! That game that just came out. Antonio,
Stranger, whatever.
Yeah, I know what game you're talking about.
That I think that's a perfect example, because like George Lucas, if he wrote those movies, they would have been garbage. Just like Kojima's game, with him working for PlayStation now, that game didn't know what its limitations were, and it's pretty much a bad game.
Well, that's something that I've always going to say too. If you look at the Star Wars films now, look at the Marvel films now, they have an unlimited budget too. That goes into that. Yeah. Well, the unlimited budget thing I think affects a lot of that stuff too, because they're like, oh, now we don't need to focus on the story anywhere near as much.
I don't think that it's that they don't need to focus on the story. I think it's we need to play this as safe as we can to make another one, to make more money.
Because they didn't play it as safe as they could with The Last Jedi. And the fan backlash to that movie, which a lot of it was valid, because it was piss poor writing by Rian Johnson, because he was the main writer. Right. He was the only writer for that film. But at least that film had a vision.
Death Stranding.
What?
No, that was the name of the game, Death Stranding. Sorry.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. I thought you said that's trending, and I'm like, what? The idea that Rian Johnson had a vision? Yeah, I know that's no, but he had a vision, and it's suddenly they hit the brakes on it, and so like, no, fuck his vision. So basically, all of the second film in this trilogy is filler.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Going on with that, I feel like if you just told me at the end of Rise of Skywalker, the entire movie is filler.
Yeah.
I knew that, Who's McFuckett...
well, them bringing Palpatine back was clearly the last second idea. To try to...
What I want to know, excuse me, is who slept with Palpatine?
I know.
Or was this like a Mary and Jesus type thing? Like he was like, bzz, and just like impregnated a woman.
Yeah. Bzz, you're pregnant. or like that star alien that impregnates Troy for that episode of TNG. Yeah, that's a callback. You're pregnant, and you're pregnant.
Something dark side.
But...
So...
You mean to tell me that he could shoot his lightning up and like stop an entire fleet? but as soon as Rey grabbed the second lightsaber, he couldn't just flicker off of a cliff.
Because she's a Skywalker.
The Force works in weird ways. It's because the Force is a crutch.
I'm totally fine with him and her and Kylo Ren literally disintegrating.
Why did he have to die?
Stupid.
That was stupid.
Because she died, he climbed back up the mountain, put his hand on her, used Force heal to heal her. They kissed, then he died.
By the way, that totally reminded me, Jim, you're not going to get this, but in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, that's what happens in that film, kind of.
Godzilla kisses someone?
No. They're fighting Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla fucking slaughters the shit out of Rodan, right? Rodan gets knocked out, disappears for a little while. Then Mechagodzilla actually manages to kill Godzilla in that film. Like, you're like, holy shit, Mechagodzilla just killed Godzilla. And then Rodan comes back and, like, brings life back into Godzilla. and when I was watching that in theaters, that part in theaters when Kylo was doing that, I was like, deja vu, man. Where's our men in rubber lizard suits, you know?
So we hit upon that and why that sucked, and we hit upon why John Boyega sucked, and we've touched upon the writing. Let's talk. I don't have a lot to say about it, but let's talk about Carrie Fisher in Rise of Skywalker.
She should have died in the Last Skywalker, the Last Jedi.
Well, yes,
she should have died in that.
So
Holdo shouldn't have been a character. Admiral Holdo, the purple-haired bitch.
Yes.
Shouldn't have been a character. It should
SJW for the win.
That should have either been Carrie Fisher or that should have been Admiral Akbar.
I would have given so much respect if it was Leia.
Dude, if Leia had died during that scene where she actually gets sucked out into space,
it would have been a fitting end.
Yeah, it would have been like, holy shit. That one that would have added a shit ton of weight to what was going on.
And
yeah.
So Carrie Fisher, I'm sure we all know, died.
Yeah, I know.
And they specifically said, I think it was her daughter said, that you can reuse old footage from Carrie Fisher in the last, 2 or 3 movies, and that they can be absolutely no CG Carrie Fisher. All in good, I thought that they did a okay job, not great, not bad, job of infusing her into these shots, and they had to change the script a little bit here and there in certain scenes. But what killed me is at the end of the movie, Rey gets her lightsaber.
Yeah.
When did Leia get a lightsaber? Oh yeah, there's a literally 12-second scene in the movie explaining how she almost was a Jedi.
And again,
but couldn't explain it any further because they couldn't use any CG of her.
This is why
Stupid.
I still think if that last movie was a trilogy, each one 2 hours, you could have expanded on that. And first off, it completely ignores continuity because that lightsaber, the blue one that Rey mainly uses, the original Skywalker one, or the one which, first off, it's not Luke Skywalker, it's Anakin's. It's not Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. His lightsaber was always green. It's Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. So that's immediately wrong. But more importantly, in The Last Jedi, that lightsaber gets disintegrated. He blows it up. Luke Skywalker fucking blows it up. And suddenly it's back in that film. So they're blatantly ignoring continuity. They don't fucking care. Why the fuck is the Death Star not in smithereens all over Endor? Because it blows up orbiting Endor. So the rubble should be in Endor, not on some random weird, horrible
dystopia
planet. Okay, also, this fucking dagger, right? The little thing that pops out of it, right? Why? You mean to tell me that dagger that's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years old, the Sith knew that the Death Star was going to blow up, orbiting Endor. Somehow the rubble lands on this planet in this exact spot, in this exact way, so that way she could line it up for that. Okay, whatever. See, if they said that wasn't the second Death Star, and that was the first one, okay, we don't know what the planet really was like that the rubble might have landed on. We don't really know. I could have bought that more. But no, it has the throne room in it. And that's clearly Return of the Jedi's Death Star. Okay, so that's a problem.
I just wish...
There's so many plot holes. What? Could you tell me why? For a second there, I thought an admiral in the Empire actually had a brain. because he saw that the Resistance was going after that one satellite that was transmitting, how they could get out of there. And he's like, transfer it to our ship, quick. Right? He says that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I sat there, I was like, oh my God, thank God, finally. Somebody in the Empire that actually has a goddamn brain. Only to then, 2 minutes later, me go, oh my God, he's so stupid. Because he's not... Why, if he can transfer that signal to his ship, why can't he then just go mass email, attach everyone, send
Everybody
it to all of the ship?
signal.
Everyone now has a signal. Get the fuck out of here.
Basically the same thing that Rey did by using the Falcon and sending that to the Rebels.
Yes.
To give them directions.
And instead, now they've made it where they have to take out that one ship. And I'm like, that's dumb. That's dumb.
Trevor, again, going... Not a huge Star Wars fan.
It's like Darth Vader. Darth Vader would have been a war criminal.
I think Kylo Ren would have been a war criminal as well, yes. But I think he could have earned the trust of Rey. And I think it's
wouldn't
very
have had them
clear.
kiss.
I wouldn't have either. It's very clear that he is choosing to let the light side of the Force.
That was like the most. They were the best part by far. They were the things. They were the things that I thought were good.
So here's what I wanted to happen. Didn't realize this was the end of all of this. What I really, really was hoping was going to happen, Kylo Ren talks to Han Solo, and I was saying this to my dad as we were watching it. Kylo Ren's talking to Han Solo, and he's turned over to the light side. At the same time that Rey is talking to Palpatine, and him trying to convince her, if she would have turned to the dark side, and then basically swap roles, that would have been the biggest risk ever, and I would have loved it.
Well, again,
I would have
if this was
loved
3
that.
movies, I would have absolutely adored it. Bringing Han Solo back for that one dream sequence made no sense to me.
I think it made perfect sense. That was
no. It shouldn't. It should have either been Carrie Fisher or it should have been.
Dead.
I know
she's dead.
Or
that's the second best.
Well, they could have done it if they planned everything out instead of rushing it at the last second. Probably
this is true.
But because that would have qualified as the second film in my opinion, because that was still the second act. But anyways, also, Kylo Ren throws his lightsaber away.
Stupid.
That was stupid because then all of a sudden.
How did he know that Rey was going to have 2 lightsabers?
I know.
How did he know?
How? You should have just kept it. Because especially since the whole message of that ending was like the light and dark side really should meet somewhere in the middle, and which I agree with. And why doesn't he just keep it? To use it, and then at the very end, he tosses it over the cliff or something.
I would have been okay with that.
I would have been okay with that.
If he used the Sith red saber to help destroy Palpatine and then got rid of it, I would love that. Speaking of very end and lightsabers, this is why I didn't think that this...
You're right, Trevor. I was wrong.
This is why I think that I didn't think that it was ending, not knowing that the saga was over. Why would she bury Leia and Luke's lightsabers and then pull out the yellow lightsaber if that is a cliffhanger, be-all, end-all? Something's going to happen with that lightsaber, whatever, 5 years from now.
And why did she pick Skywalker? I thought, like, a whole big thing of her character was her discovering who she was, like, what her parents were, like, what was her backstory, and then it not really mattering. Or her realizing that, no, the only thing that matters is I am who I am. See, I would have had her go, that old lady is like, no, what's your last name? Or whatever. I would have had her just go, it doesn't matter.
So, something along those lines. I didn't want her to say Palpatine. Skywalker kind of, hit me in the feels. Seeing Carrie Fisher and Luke, Leia and Luke nod and chuckle. That was kind of cute. And again, it's not for the more into it fans. It's to the, oh, that's so nice. Who's not going to really look into it after the movie.
Well, that's the thing with all of these movies have been, the emotion is there, right? All they care about are the feelings, the emotions of it, and then once you start thinking about it, it falls apart. Completely falls apart.
Yeah.
I've had that with every single one of these movies.
Yeah.
Every single one, even Rogue One, and I mean all of them.
Rogue One was good, though. I like Rogue One.
I like the final act, and that's it.
Yeah.
The final act is what saves it.
Although, the one saving grace in Rise of Skywalker, I thought D-0, I thought he was cute as
Oh, the thing that was...
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah, and I like that he was abused, and that it took a while for Rey to earn his trust. I did like that.
Yeah. I did like that. I thought it was a cute little side thingy that was kind of going on in the background. A little bit of levity to it. But the best thing to me that happened in the Sky, and I say this, I thought it was genuinely good. Actually, fantastic. Everything with Kylo Ren and Rey. With them talking to each other. With them kind of like interacting back and forth with the Force and everything like that. Their connection was not only fascinating, and I actually thought they explored it pretty well. But I just thought they worked so good together, these two. Everything with them I loved, and I love the idea that everything flips. You know, the idea that Kylo Ren suddenly embraces the light side while Rey is just going down this path of destruction with the dark side.
And I wish she flipped. I wish she did. I can't say that.
No. I like the fact that it remained. Kylo Ren kind of pulled her back. I liked that.
That's so stupid because she's pulling him the whole time. So, you want to know what my biggest problem with Rise of Skywalker and Han Solo and all of these movies are?
What?
Mandalorian is amazing.
And it is, yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, amazing. They can tell a good story, they can have great characters, and it's not all about the money, because Mandalorian didn't have a crazy huge budget. But it was good.
No, Mandalorian, like I was listening to, not really a spoiler-free review of one of them, and they were talking about, you know what was great about this latest episode of The Mandalorian? It takes place completely in one room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Like, there's several parts of Star Trek, going back to Star Trek, where it was supposed to be like a bottle show. Bottle show means you don't have the money to really do an epic episode, so you just kind of need to really keep things confined to like one location, one room, and things like that. There's several episodes or bottle episodes of Deep Space Nine and TNG in particular that are phenomenal. One of them, in which was the one where Picard goes down to after Best of Both Worlds, sees his brother, goes to see his brother.
Oh, that's such
that was a bottle episode.
Did you know he passed away this year too?
Mm-hmm.
That's so sad.
He's in a lot of stuff. That actor that was in there, he was in a lot of stuff that I've seen him from. He plays a Nazi a lot.
I'm really hoping that he makes an appearance in Picard as well.
No, he can't. He can't.
Why?
Because of something that happens in Generations.
Oh no, I liked him a lot.
I do too, but
that's too bad.
Something happens in Generations, so he can't actually come back.
I appreciate you not spoiling it.
Yeah, it's a big part of Picard in that movie.
Picard also has a pit bull, and so do I.
Does he have a pit bull?
Yeah, in the new show.
Oh, cool.
It's a pit bull.
Cool.
Well, Patrick Stewart in real life is a pit bull advocate. He has 6 pit bulls.
I know him and Tom Holland.
Yeah,
are like big pit bull people because they live in England, and in England you're not really allowed to have a pit bull.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if it's out in public, it has to have a muzzle.
A lot of towns in America as well.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that. But at least
anyway, this isn't about dogs. I just wanted to say that I have a pit bull, and Picard has a pit bull.
I love pit bulls.
What is this? Did you name your last name if your grandfather was Hitler? No, we're saying that she shouldn't have kept Palpatine's name. We're saying that she shouldn't have taken Skywalker's name. She should have said it doesn't matter what her last name is. Or she should have made up something else to make a new beginning.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
It's not that she's
and I also like the idea that Kylo Ren, you know, him living, instead of him falling in love with Rey or whatever, I would have had him walk out, hold his arms out, and they put cuffs on him. Or something like that, you know, like they're like, no, I'm going to atone for what I've done. What I've done is
everything
wrong.
that he did.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
and he'll leave it, and he even like admits, he's like, everything that I have done is wrong, and I'm going to atone for it. What I have done is horrible, which is what I think Vader would have done, because of what Anakin does, his redemption at the end of that. If he lived, I think that's something that he would have done. But which would work because Kylo Ren had an obsession with Vader, so. wasted opportunity. Far worse than Voyager, because at least Voyager had like great episodes.
Voyager has quite a few
really good episodes.
Really good episodes. Voyager's actually.
I love Year of Hell.
Year of Hell was.
Do you know that was originally supposed to be that entire season? They condensed it down to a 2-parter because Rick Berman and the other guy refused to have a serialized show like Deep Space Nine. That was originally going to be the entire season, A Year of Hell, and I would have been so on board with that.
I would have been okay with that. My favorite Voyager episode, I'm not good with remembering names, but because that one's my favorite one, Living Witness. It's the one where it's like 800 years in the future, past Voyager, and somebody, they picked up the Doctor's holographic program, and from the history of that planet, they said that Voyager destroyed the planet, but as the Doctor, he's the living witness that was able to prove that they weren't. And it's not only that is what I liked about that episode, but this was shot in, what, the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a really
90s, early 2000s.
A really good shot where it's them, you know, the Doctor and the historian talking, and then all of a sudden the camera, like, pans away from them and pans to, like, a group of school kids, and it's another historian, like 300 years more in the future, explaining how the Doctor corrected them. And that shot alone has just stuck in my head for like longest time.
Well, to speak of like something that's like a very simple episode, kind of like that, where the idea is kind of simple.
That one all took place in one location.
Yeah. But to speak of that, my favorite episode of TNG, my favorite episode of Star Trek, period, is The Inner Light.
There are 4 lights, right?
No.
No?
The Inner Light is the one where Picard gets hit with that probe and gets knocked out.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
He gets,
where he lives
a whole other life with this girl that he falls in love with. He has a daughter.
He keeps the piccolo thing.
Yes. Yeah, he keeps that tune. And I love that. Whatever. But it was that episode, every time I cry.
Yeah.
Every fucking time. And though that episode where he kind of has a little fling with that other girl where he actually for the first time plays that tune again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't really care for that episode as a whole. I adored that moment.
Yeah.
I thought that moment was pure Picard.
Yeah.
That was so him. And like, because Picard is such a closed off character, I thought it was so fitting that not only would music be how he expresses himself, but he specifically chooses that bit of music.
Right.
Because that's like his most inner...
The thing that he cares about.
The most inner thing that I could think of with Picard, where it's like he will go back to and just think about it and cherish. And I'm like, of course he would want to share that with her. I like that.
You know, with you saying that Cisco was based off of Picard, and you talking about things that Picard loves...
Cisco wasn't based off of Picard. Cisco was an antithesis to Picard.
Yeah, he was supposed to emulate.
Well, no. He was supposed to be the opposite. Because, like, while Picard was more fancy, he liked his tea, he liked his arts, he liked his crafts and everything like that.
He liked archaeology.
Sure.
And so did Cisco.
And
I never understood that. That didn't really click to me.
I thought that was just a happenstance. But look at Cisco. Cisco likes his coffee. He likes baseball. He likes his jambalaya.
He likes engines.
Yes, he's a much more
man's
everyman kind of than Picard is. Picard is a much more elegant human
and
person.
Well, it's kind of like you said. You got Picard, who is the politician all day long. You got Cisco, who's the militant. You got Voyager with Janeway. She's kind of like the mom. Also, the rookie, I feel like, as well. She's not as experienced. She wasn't... That ship's not meant for 7 years exploration. Yeah. It's meant for, 6 months.
Yeah.
And then you have Enterprise with Archer. It's the real rookie. Just...
Yeah, Archer
shooting the shit.
Archer is actually by far my least favorite captain.
Oh, I think he's better than Janeway.
Oh, no, I like Janeway.
No.
I'll tell you why I like Janeway. And it's not because of Janeway herself. It's because I love Kate Mulgrew. I think she is such a good actress. I think she's better than Scott Bakula.
I would agree with their acting abilities, but I think Archer standing up for his crew, I think he stood up for his crew way more than Janeway did. Janeway knew that she had... I don't know if I'm phrasing this correctly, so...
Well, her arc should have been she can't be a captain.
She knew that she had the Federation backing her. Archer didn't, yet he stood up for his
Well, she didn't
crew.
have the Federation backing her, because I thought that should have been the entire crux of the show is, now that the Federation's gone.
Not the Federation, but she knows that
Those
she
principles?
has her crew and her principles that
Yeah.
will...
Janeway liked to fall on principles.
Whereas
Janeway
Archer
was very inconsistent.
Archer would go punch an Andorian in the face not knowing what he just got into. Like an Andorian versus the Enterprise, an Andorian ship would win. And yet he would still stand up for his crew. I think he's I like him better as a captain, although that usually got him into a bar fight that he could have easily avoided. But
the one where he gets stabbed in the heart and kills him, right? Right?
You know.
I love that episode, like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, that just establishes what kind of person Picard is. Picard, 1, was ambitious, and 2, it explains why he is the way he is now. He's matured. He's calmed down. He's
Because
no
of
longer...
that.
Yeah, he's no longer that... By the way, Kirk goes through something similar.
Q is awesome, by the way.
Q is awesome. I hope he's not in this new show.
Oh, he's gonna be.
I hope not, because they complete him so well in the final 4-parter of TNG.
But he's in Voyager.
I know, and I hate those episodes. The Q and the Gray, I hated.
Wait, was that the one where the other Q wanted to kill himself?
Yes.
I love that episode.
No, wait. The Q and the Gray is the one where they actually go to, like, the Q planet.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was so
and they had, like, the Civil War representation. Right.
You should watch more Star Trek. Everyone should watch more Star Trek, Trevor. Star Trek is amazing. For good and for bad. Star Trek is amazing. Because to me, it's like for every episode that's bad in Star Trek, there's like 3 or 4 that are really good.
At least 2 really good ones.
Yeah. It's definitely worth it. And you kind of, because I've gotten so used to watching serials, that it's kind of hard to go back to an episodic thing. And Star Trek makes it easy. Star Trek, TNG makes
Voyager.
it easy. I say
Voyager
seasons 3 and 4 of Voyager I really liked.
Well, I'm not saying whether or not they're good. I'm saying you can watch them out of order. Mm-hmm. Once you get past the first season you have to watch in order. But then
the first two seasons of TNG, I think you have to kind of slug your way through them. Because I think there's great episodes in it, but there's some really bad stinkers.
They had to get their footing.
Yes, and...
But same thing with all of them, really.
Well, I like Polanski.
I did too.
I liked Polanski.
And I like how she didn't trust Data.
Yeah, I liked that. Oh, well, it was going to be a mother... What the writers wanted to do...
Oh, I could see it was happening.
They wanted to make Polanski become like a mother figure to Data.
Yeah.
And that relationship forms from there. And I thought that would have been great. But you see, because Dr. Crusher comes back, which, by the way, I think Polanski was far more of an interesting character than Crusher.
I would agree.
But because Crusher came back, we got her as a character, and that's why we know and love her so much. And that's why we look at Polanski with such poo-poo-ness. Like, fans hate Polanski. However, if Polanski had remained for the rest of the show, we would look at Crusher as the oddball out, and Polanski would have been hailed.
I think they could have made her arc a little bit more interesting, and I don't know if it happens in the movies, if Picard and Crusher got together.
It doesn't happen in the movies. I can tell you that.
There are, like, certain episodes where they will...
They were supposed to. I can tell you this. They wanted to get those two together so bad, but Rick Berman and Gene Roddenberry for a while would not let them.
I didn't hate the fact that they were obviously super close. I get the feeling from them, Picard and Crusher, is what they wanted between Riker and Troy. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe Troy and Riker do get along so well, and maybe they do have good chemistry. Troy is by far my least favorite character in...
Mine's Crusher. Mine is Crusher.
Definitely least favorite in TNG. Might be my worst least favorite character in all of them, though. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
My least favorite character in Star Trek.
And I'm not saying like
out of main casts.
Main
casts.
Yeah.
I think it might be Crusher, just because they don't do anything with her.
Yeah, but they don't do anything with the Denoblian from Enterprise either.
Oh, I agree.
But he is at least interesting. The way that he talks, his humor.
Sure.
It's an interesting character, even though they don't do anything.
They don't
with
do
him.
anything with him. That's my biggest problem.
Crusher's just a human.
Crusher is just there to be the nurse. To me, Crusher's best moments were with Picard in the show. She had to rely. Well, there was that good episode that was Crusher based. I loved this episode.
Which one?
Where it's like she's in she's been sucked into like this alternate reality and like slowly everything is disappearing.
Yeah, I remember.
I liked that episode. I thought that was a really cool and clever episode.
Yeah. Her memory was fading, and like that's.
It wasn't her memory. It was yes, it was her memory.
Could only she couldn't sense anything outside the ship because she doesn't remember anything. Because nothing is outside
the ship, and then all of a sudden, like characters would disappear, and then like no one had any recollection of those characters, and eventually rooms started disappearing and everything. Yeah. That was a good episode. I liked that one.
So least favorite is definitely Troy from TNG. My favorite from TNG is Data. My costume was originally supposed to be Data, but I got these Vulcan ears dirt cheap. That's why I'm Lieutenant Commander.
Riker would be up there if Jonathan Frakes learned how to tone back his performance.
Yeah,
a bit,
I can see that.
Because he goes really over the top in several parts. He actually is able, because he directed 2 out of the 4 movies. Of the movies. And he
directed a lot of the TV stuff.
And Deep Space Nine. He directed a lot of Deep Space Nine as well.
Also, Jonathan Frakes is directing the first 3 episodes of Picard, and in 2 of them.
He directed several episodes of The Orville, which, by the way, if you want something that's more in line of Star Trek, it's The Orville. The Orville, the problem with the first season is that it was a comedy first, actual show second. Season 2... or even the second half of season 1, they flipped it. It became show first, comedy second. And as soon as they had that down, it became a very solid show. That, and a lot of writers from Star Trek, former writers from Star Trek,
are on.
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane hired them.
Yeah.
To start writing shows for the Orville, and it shows. The quality of that show went up like mad.
I do want to go best and worst of each of the mainline series.
The original series did get eclipsed by later series.
My thing with it is, Adam gave me a list of like 5 or 6 episodes to watch, and I did watch those episodes. I personally can't get over the campy acting.
So 60s. So 60s.
I get it. It's the inspiration, and some of the episodes are fantastic, but I just can't get over it.
I say that there are excellent, amazing, phenomenal episodes in TOS. I cannot call it a good show.
Yeah.
There are phenomenal episodes. Why I like Kirk the most, why he's my favorite character in all of Star Trek, is because of the movies. The movies totally sell that crew. To me, that is what got me into the crew, was the movies, not the show. Mm-hmm. My dad and I would watch TOS more than any other show, because it was on the most. And we would watch that, like Balance of Terror, the Doomsday Machine, the Space Seed with Khan. There's so many good episodes, but it's not a good show. And I have the same thing with Voyager. I think there's a lot of great, fantastic, phenomenal episodes in Voyager, but I can't call it a good show. TNG, I think I can call that a good show, without a shout out. Deep Space Nine, phenomenal show. And you know what? I'll even call Enterprise. I would call Enterprise a good show, because I thought the last 2 seasons, all the way through those 2 seasons, were pretty fucking solid.
I would say it was okay to good. I don't know if I would say
it's definitely a weaker.
Like a 6.
It's I'd give it like a B- to a C+ in there.
I give it like a 6, like a just barely passing, like a D+.
Voyager, I'd give a D.
So, DS9 favorite character.
Oh fuck!
We're gonna do this for the 4 most recent.
I can't do that.
Excluding Discovery.
Oh.
Least favorite?
Oh, Bashir. Bashir is by far my least favorite character.
No, he turned around for me, man.
No, I hated him.
I hated him in the first 2 seasons, but he was supposed to be cocky, so it's A-okay with me.
Bashir past season 3, I tolerated. Like, I was like, okay, all right. Him stuff with, what were those evil Federation guys called? Section...
31.
Those episodes are great.
Which is the downfall of Star Trek now.
Oh, they shouldn't be their own thing.
We'll get into that. We still have some time.
Section 31 should not be their own thing.
My least favorite character.
They're the Gestapo of the Federation, essentially. They're the SS of the Federation. But,
Least favorite?
Least favorite's Bashir. Yeah, so far.
I don't know. I think I would have a harder time picking a least favorite than a favorite because I felt they were all good. I guess I would have to say Bashir is my least favorite because the first 2 or 3 seasons he was really bad. But he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be
out of the main
that
cast?
you don't like.
I'll go with Kira. I'll say Kira was my favorite on the whole because it's a toss up between her and Sisko because I really love that commander of Commander Sisko being a commander, and I love how he falls in love with Bajor. He's clearly supposed to be an inspiration of General MacArthur. Clearly inspired by General MacArthur during World War II, because MacArthur fell in love with the Philippines, which was where he was stationed, and that's why he vowed to return during World War II when the Japanese took it over. He said that during a speech. He was like, "I shall return," which was why Sisko inspired Sisko leaving the baseball behind. I love that. However, I think Kira had the best character.
I'm having a toss up between Quark.
Love Quark.
And
Quark was great.
Also Kira.
Odo was great.
Odo was great, and
Odo had a better dichotomy more than I think he had a better character. Who's Jerry Anderson? Oh, Thunderbirds. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Sorry. My favorite of those are the puppet shows.
I haven't seen any of those.
You haven't seen any of those?
Yeah, sorry.
I know he directed the movie adaptation of Thunderbirds. I didn't really care for that. I'd say out of those, it'd probably be Thunderbirds, mainly because of the movie. I love that movie that came out for Thunderbirds, the old movie made in '66. However, did he also produce like UFO and Space 1999? Because if he produced Space 1999, that's my favorite show that he produced. Space 1999, though very 70s, I think is a pretty solid, cool show. Yeah, TOS. Very, very hit and miss. Very hit and miss. Because there's some episodes that are just like...
By far. Voyager. Doctor was my favorite character.
Oh, I love...
His arc? Oh my goodness.
I would have loved Paris if they did more with him.
I could see that. And I wish that they called back to him being in jail more often because... They never call back to it after like the 2nd or 3rd season.
Oh, because he was the fuck up. He was the fuck up that's that winds up getting thrown into the situation and proving himself in it.
And I forget that he's, did have that.
Kim,
arc.
They did nothing with.
Yeah.
They were going to kill him. You know that episode where he dies?
Good.
Yeah, they were. That was originally supposed to be it.
Good.
Like the writers, they openly admit to hating him.
They didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, and I'm like, God, that poor actor.
They gave him one episode where he finally took charge and was like, "I've been an ensign for 4 years on the bridge, blah 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 blah," and it went nowhere.
They went nowhere with that. Well, they had the reset button.
But I don't think that's my least favorite character. I would probably have to say, I love 7 of 9, and I'm very excited for her
once
to be
they got
in
off
Picard.
of the fact that 7 of 9 is learning to be human, when they got off of that bullshit, that's when I started getting more on board with.
But I think
her.
she's my least favorite main character.
I wouldn't know
because of her wasted potential.
I think Kim is my least favorite character.
I see him as the goody-goody two-shoe. And then Enterprise, neither of us really have a lot to say.
Janeway would have become my favorite character if they did things with her. And she was also very inconsistent.
Yes.
Now, on episodes, she would be like all for the principles
of the Federation.
Of the Federations. And another one, she'd say, fuck the principles.
Yep.
And sometimes they'd be right after each other. And
there was an episode where she found another Federation ship who had been there slightly less time than her in the Delta Quadrant, and he was killing creatures and then using their dead cells to propel themselves further.
Yes.
To get back to Federation space. And that whole episode, she was, you gotta follow the principle, you gotta follow the principle. But then, 3 episodes later, she's breaking the Federation.
Yeah. Yes.
She's...
I agree. No, I completely agree.
I wish, like you said earlier, that she admitted, I am not fit for command, and either Tuvok or Chakotay took over.
That should have been a part of her career. The entire premise of Voyager was a missed opportunity. It should have been about them, a survival horror story in space.
Yeah.
It should have been them, like, okay, they find a planet. Like, you know that episode where she's like, we're going down to that planet. There's coffee on that planet? That would have been, like, a crux of the show to me. Is them finding a planet. Okay, we need to figure out how to make photon torpedoes. We need to defend ourselves. Because, like, in the first episode, they're like, there's only 40. But yet they fire, like, 6,000 of them by the end of the show, and they never address that.
Full spread.
I'm like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
So if they found a planet, we're like, we're going to set up a base here. We're gonna try to do some stuff here.
Would you have been for them literally just trying to colonize a planet and
not going home?
Yeah.
Sure.
And that be the show.
Now, it would depend on how they go with that. It really would. Because I do like the idea of them being like, that their ultimate goal is to get home. I do like that idea. Mm-hmm. But again, they don't really do anything.
But if they could find a planet, like you said, make enough
they colonize a planet. What if
stay there for 20 years, work on expanding their warp drive, whatever it may be, but then only make the journey be 5-10 years.
What if there's a species of aliens down on that planet? What if they sort of integrate themselves in with that species of aliens? What if there's a lot of stuff that they could have done with that idea of them being in the Federation, losing the backing of the Federation because now they're way out in god bumfuck nowhere space, and that they do nothing with it. Nothing.
And when they do come across new species, most of the time it's bad, which is annoying.
Space 1999 is by far my favorite one.
When they come across new species, it's annoying because the new species says, "Oh, I've heard of you. You're bad because you've done this, this, and that." Mm-hmm. But they've done so much good too. Why can't they come across a new species that says, "Oh, you're Voyager. You've done this great thing, and I've heard of your ideal principles. We would like to join the Federation."
That would have been something interesting. That would have been something interesting.
They kind of did that with the Talaxians, but they didn't.
They dropped them.
Yeah,
yeah.
But that's the whole point of they have to keep moving away from any connections that they make. But why couldn't they have made a connection with somebody, and like you said, maybe made took one of their and took one of their moons or whatever, and said, "Hey, we'll use this space."
It could have been. You know what? That could have been interesting. It could have been like a reverse alien invasion story. Or arc, or series of episodes where it's like the Voyager is going to this planet being like, can we have a little bit of land just to set up shop? Mm-hmm. We just want this little tiny bit of land. And you know, the idea of it being a reverse alien invasion story to me sounds interesting and stuff like that. But anyways, that all goes down to the writing, which I said this because it's in the thing, so I am going to bring this up. Heisei Godzilla, the ones made in the 90s, which, by the way, I think this is the longest I've ever gone on anything I've ever done where I haven't brought up Godzilla, so...
You're welcome.
But,
I don't know anything
to talk about Heisei Godzilla was very much so written front end, where they were coming up with it with each film. They had no vision for what, like, they just focused on each individual films. To the point there are some major continuity problems in the show. Like, the individual movies themselves can be phenomenal. But as you watch them as a whole,
are they supposed
there's continuity.
To take place
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And specifically, Godzilla vs. Biollante, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and then a couple movies later, Space Godzilla comes out. Right? Those three movies have stuff in it that all interconnect with each other. But the problem is, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, the entire crux of that film is these people from the future erase Godzilla from history. So Godzilla vs. Biollante could not have happened. Yeah. To me, that's an interesting idea. To me, that's a very interesting idea that they do kind of run with. But then all of a sudden, Space Godzilla comes up, and they mention events that happened in Biollante that could not have happened. So yeah, there's stuff like that. It's really confusing. But that is a case of a show, or not a show, a series of movies that really, really would have benefited from back-end writing. See, back-end writing works better with movies, or a series of films, than a show.
Well, because like we were saying, if you know that you're going to get 3 or 4 movies...
And because of that, and like... certain characters just get dropped, or like a character from one film won't come back for the next film. But like Miki Sagusa, who's I did an entire podcast on, she's the character who's been in the most Godzilla movies. She's a recurring character. She's the only character that is truly consistent with the entire Heisei series, and she is by far the best character, the best and most fascinating character on the whole. She's not my favorite character from those movies, but on the whole, she's the most rounded one. Because she goes from being this timid little girl, who's only like 16 years old, and she goes to being a full-fledged leader of this sect in G-Force, and she becomes a full-grown woman by the end of it. And I'm like, that's fascinating. But because of that, she has one of her arcs is that Mickey. Mickey doesn't... She's not good with other people. She's very introverted. And then in Space Godzilla, she manages to form a sort of romance relationship with the character. And one of the big things in that film is that they don't kiss. She simply reaches her hand out. And he holds her hand. Like, that was a big thing for her. Right? She just that willingness to connect with somebody else. That character, the guy, dropped in the next film. Not even referenced. And that's because they had no idea what they were doing. You see, if they knew what they were doing, and that was intentionally supposed to be part of her character, they could have, if he couldn't be in the movie, reference him. Maybe she has a picture of him on her desk. Maybe she's like, I gotta go because I'm on a date or something, you know.
Have the rights, not maybe to his likelihood, but they could mention the character's name. I mean, they might not be able to have the rights to show a picture of him because that's his likeness. The actors.
I think they could have gotten away with that,
but
for just
at least
picture.
To say his name, if it really was that important of a character in the previous movie.
If they did that, I would have been fine.
Yeah,
absolutely fine, because that was such a big moment for her.
Right.
But granted, what they focus on in that movie is her connection to Baby Godzilla, because that's a huge thing with her. And to me, out of the two things, I'm glad they focused on that. Like, if they had to pick, I'm glad they focused on that, because they've been focusing on that 3 movies previous, and her relationship with Baby Godzilla and how it changes. And, you know, she goes from being purely, I need to kill Godzilla, to now I respect Godzilla, and now I understand their importance to everything. And everything like that, which is all great stuff, because out of all the Godzilla films until the MonsterVerse ones, the ones that Legendary Pictures have been making, basically Godzilla, for all of the movies from the 50s and 60s and 70s, they're standalone films. Even the ones made in the 2000s, they're all standalone movies, basically. I know there's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Those are the only 2 movies made in the 2000s that were connected to each other. All the other ones you can watch separate and you're fine. The Heisei series is the only series of Godzilla films that if you jump into, let's say, Mechagodzilla 2, without having seen any of the other ones, you might be a little confused. Because of what happens. Mechagodzilla is built because of something that happens in King Ghidorah, which is 2 movies previous and stuff like that. But then again, there are also some parts of the Heisei series, like Godzilla vs. Mothra, made in 1992. That one you can jump in with like little knowledge and still be able to enjoy it, in my opinion. Destroya, which is my favorite one out of them all, perfectly ties into not just wraps up that series, but beautifully wraps up Godzilla. Like, it completes his arc, it completes Junior's arc, it completes all of these thematic arcs that are going on throughout them all, and it ties into the original. Because the original Godzilla, they established, was indeed killed. This is the second Godzilla. And on top of that, the enemy that Godzilla is fighting is born from the weapon that killed the original Godzilla. The oxygen destroyer.
I feel like, you would have to know a little something.
Which, by the way, they brilliantly explain in the film.
Okay.
They do. They brilliantly explain how that works. By tying in, like, the grandson of the character that created it. The family ties, the ideas of generations is a theme in that. And, like, So while Godzilla was created by the arrogance of man with an atomic bomb, the weapon that kills Godzilla creates another monster that kills Godzilla's son right in front of him.
Ooh.
It's a great scene. Oh, it's so awful. Like, you see him pick up Godzilla Jr., like, destroy it, and, like, fly away, drops him, like, from, like, thousands of feet in the air, and he just lands, and it's dead. And you see Godzilla just standing there, just screaming. Oh, it's so good. So good. Such a good movie.
That's so sad.
It is. Godzilla vs. Destroy is a sad movie. It's not a fun Godzilla movie. It's just really good. And, like, Mickey, who doesn't want to harm Godzilla or baby Godzilla, realizes that in order to save the world, she has to kill one of them.
Oop.
So she swallows up those feelings against her own will and manages to get Godzilla Jr. to go to Tokyo because she knows that would drive Godzilla there. Because one of Godzilla's whole character, and you guys can probably attest to this, Godzilla's whole character arc revolves around the fact that he goes from being sort of like an evil presence to just a benevolent one because of Junior. As soon as baby Godzilla comes into the picture, Godzilla becomes far more of, like, not only a father figure, but more like, I'm going to just leave shit alone and raise him on this island.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever Godzilla comes back, it's because someone's fucked with Junior. That's the entire...
He's in protect mode.
Yeah, he's in protect mode. And that happens in full force in Destroya. Comes full circle in Destroya. Like the scene where Godzilla walks up to... There's a scene in Destroya, and everyone can attest to this, where Godzilla walks up to a dying Junior and is desperately trying to revive or, like, get him up.
Mm-hmm.
And Junior just dies, like, right in front of him, and Godzilla loses it.
I would too.
It's so good. That movie is so good. The perfect wrap. That, by the way, kind of like Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country beautifully wraps up the original crew.
Is that why Spock dies?
No. But it beautifully wraps up the crew. Their character arcs are completed. It's just a great send-off for them. Destroya is that for Godzilla. It's, like, to me, the definition of how to end a series. Mm-hmm. You know, because it is. You yourself, you say you have a hard time watching the end of shows.
Yeah. I do have a hard time because I don't want the story to end.
Honda wasn't considered to direct Mechagodzilla 2, Justin. Honda himself admitted in interviews that they never approached him. It was just a rumor that they might have considered it. They never really approached him, and anyways, he died before they really could approach him. Shiro Honda died the same year they were going to make that. But if he did direct that, because Shiro Honda directed much of including the original Godzilla, a lot of the classic ones, and many of them which are considered excellent films. I think the film certainly would have looked better, because the problem I have with Mechagodzilla 2 is that it's so visually lacking. It's shot like a TV movie, so, like, everything's kind of flatly lit. Everything there's hardly any close-ups in the film. It's all done in, like, mediums and stuff like that, which is fine if that's the style you're going with, but it's clearly not intentionally the style they're going with. There's just no effort visually in that film. And with Honda, we would have probably had a little bit more of a vision visually, because to me, the writing in Mechagodzilla 2 and all that stuff, and again, the story is good. It's great. The problem and why it's my least favorite of the Heisei series is simply because the visuals are so lackluster. That's it. Story-wise, acting-wise, music-wise, it's fine. It's just the effects and the cinematography and everything around it.
Iffy.
What's up?
No, I'm saying you said that the cinematography's kind of...
Yeah, it's kind of... Yeah, it's very bland. It's definitely the blandest out of them all. The weakest visually out of them all. Because it's not like those movies really had a distinct visual flair. None of those movies really jump out to me in terms of visuals. That's definitely the weakest aspect. The visuals are the weakest aspect of the Heisei series, in my opinion. That there's nothing really that jumps out to me out of any of those films creatively that I could say that was an amazing shot, or like things like that, or that was a creative looking shot. None of that really in the Heisei series.
Interesting. I have a secret.
What?
I'm not really a Vulcan. These are just fake ears.
I was wondering when you were going to start taking those off.
Yeah, my ears are getting hot.
How dare you? Yeah, Trevor, I just don't get why people rag on that series. I don't get it. Well, I'm only doing this because Jim is here, and Jim doesn't really know Godzilla very well. But people rag on Deep Space Nine. A lot of fans rag on Deep Space Nine.
Oh yeah,
because it had the gall to challenge this mantra of Star Trek, the basic ideas. It wanted to say, yeah, the Federation's great and everything, but this is why, and this is how it happens.
Yeah.
This dirty work, this underbelly.
A lot of dirty work. And wasn't that also the first time that they said war?
Yes.
In Star Trek? And
it's also the first time we saw land fighting, too. Like people fighting, with combat. The Siege of AR 558. Yeah. That fantastic episode.
Yeah, when Sisko decided to stay because although I kind of thought that it was.
Oh, I thought the ending was weak. I thought him just leaving was weak.
Yeah.
I love the arc that happens with Nog.
Nog
loses a leg.
He does. He loses his leg,
and that becomes a big arc for him.
And then he's in the Hollow Suites with
the jazz dude.
The jazz singer.
Vic Fontaine. Yeah. Fontaine or Fontaine, I can't remember, but yeah, him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good show.
I'll tell you why people pick on those movies, and a lot of it is for reasons that I just said. The visuals are lacking in the film, in those films. I mean, definitely Mechagodzilla is the weakest, and I can't say that they're bad in the Heisei series, but they're the weakest. And I can also say that, specifically Godzilla vs. Mothra, I can say lacked creatively in the writing department. It is just a retread of Mothra vs. Godzilla made in 1964. So I can see that. I can see why they don't like it. However, I think a lot of it stems down to these movies were really what started challenging the original films, and they also were geared towards a different area than the original films. And these movies were also made with none of the original people that worked on the original movies. This was a completely new crew. And I truly think that has a lot to do with it. The Heisei series, really, other than Tomoyuki Tanaka, and Tomoyuki Tanaka had a stroke, so he was basically useless. It was mainly Shogo Tomiyama who helmed the Heisei series for good and for bad. And after Biollante. Biollante was the last movie where Tomoyuki Tanaka really had any sway behind the scenes. But, I'm sorry about this, Jim. I'll go to a full screen of me so we don't see you as much. Oh, no, I can just do that. We're fine. But I think a lot. Oh, I think a lot of that has to do with that, because especially people like Steve Reifel and Ed Gutschewski, those film historians, and David Callett, even to an extent, hail Ishiro Honda as being like the savior director of Godzilla. In a way, he was. I do agree with that. He's the soul of Godzilla. And once they're gone, it's like, it's to a lot of people, it's like energy goes away from what they're watching. I'm trying to think of a show that happened, where like a character dies or a character leaves, and suddenly the show is nowhere near as good anymore because of it. It's kind of like that, and that's honestly why I think that happens. Not saying I agree with it, just saying that that's the truth of what happened. Yeah, well, my least favorite era of Godzilla is definitely the Millennium era, and that's just because each film stands alone. They're not connected to each other, really. But that's definitely my least favorite era. Though the movies themselves, I don't think are bad.
Yeah. Right. Of course.
Right. Because like GMK, we were talking about GMK earlier. That's a fantastic movie. That's in the Millennium era.
Yeah?
Godzilla 2000, I think, is a fun movie. I think it's a great film, actually. And, okay. And I think, Final Wars is a fun movie. That's the one with the suit that you said looked cheap. Like it didn't look good.
I don't know if I... Yeah.
Go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
I've ragged on that suit before. So.
Yeah, just from seeing some of the pictures, like when the guy's standing up nice and tall, it looked fine. But in that one shot or whatever, he was kind of hunched over like he was going to pick up something.
It looks like cheap material.
And you can see the stomach folding over itself. Yeah. And it looks a lot like Thor in the new movies. Where everybody thinks that bodysuit is super realistic, but it's ugly as all hell.
Yeah. But that's because they made it out of cheaper... lighter, not cheaper. I shouldn't say that. Lighter material.
Because you're saying it's a more action.
Yeah, you haven't seen the movie. Very action oriented Godzilla, and because of that, the suit doesn't look as good, in my opinion. It doesn't look as realistic. They don't have the detail.
It sounds like a sacrifice that you have to make, though.
It was. Absolutely. If you wanted a more mobile Godzilla suit, that's how you do it. Yeah. You have to make the material lighter, and the material doesn't look as good as a result. The one reason why I think the Heisei series Godzilla suits look so good, or as good as they do, is because they didn't care. You know, those suits didn't really fight. And a lot of people accuse the Heisei series of beam spamming, where it's like Godzilla breathes atomic breath, or the enemy has a ray or something like that. The suits never really fight. And that's a problem. I do have that problem with the middle of the series. But because of that, the suits were a lot more detailed than in other films. And because of that, they look better.
Right.
And stuff like that. So it's all goes to what preference. Yeah. What do you want this Godzilla story to revolve around? So though this isn't a limitation with CGI, I like the fact that in Godzilla 2014, this new iteration, he's like a bear.
Yeah.
You know, he's very physical and everything. He'll charge like a bear. He'll attack like a bear. I love that. And it works good with that one. But I also love Shin Godzilla, where you saw that one with me too, where he's very upright the entire time, very slow.
That was a costume.
No, that wasn't a costume. No? It was CGI. They chose that to be CGI.
It looked like a costume. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Well, they modeled it after a costume.
Okay.
That was the thing. Yeah. It was sort of a stylistic choice.
Yeah. But I could respect that decision. I didn't know. See, I thought it was a person in a suit. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's a. It was
originally going to be a giant animatronic. Apparently, the animatronic didn't work very well.
I guess I didn't think that it was a person in there. I kind of thought it was going to be more like Jurassic Park, where it's an animatronic or a puppet. At least.
One of the things that with Japan, you know, their technology and the money that they have to spend on films and time is significantly less than what we do.
Wasn't the budget only like 20 or 30 million?
15.
Yeah.
For Shin Godzilla, it was the equivalent of 15 million. And
That's nothing.
And so one of the reasons why they went with that very stiff design was so that they could put more detail into the design itself without it moving ridiculously.
Right. Because that's probably what actually ends up taking a lot of CG and computer power, is the actual moving of it.
Well, time. It all comes down to time. Yeah. And I'll be the first, and I've said this before, one of the biggest weaknesses I have with the Japanese Godzilla movies, or just Japanese movies in general, is their sound design sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, their sound design is by far the weakest part of that. And none other than is with Godzilla 2000. Godzilla 2000, the Japanese version, different music score, different sound design. It comes over to the United States, they removed the sound design. They kept some of the music from the original film, but they had somebody come in and do a better score for the film.
Good.
And they redid the sound design from the ground up. And because of that alone, not only does the movie look better, but it feels bigger. Same visuals, same cuts in most of the example. Like the final fight with Godzilla and Orga, if you watch the Japanese version, it looks cheap. It looks like men in rubber lizard suits fighting in a miniature city. But with those sound effects added in the US version and the different music score and everything like that, it somehow made it feel so much larger and bigger. So sound design is always a big aspect of those kind of films.
There's been a whole bunch of studies that you can have. You put two films right next to each other, one with, 10 minutes long. Mm-hmm. People will not finish watching the movie if the sound is bad.
If the sound is bad.
But if the cinematography and the acting is bad, they'll finish it.
Yeah, if the sound design is good.
But if the sound design is awful,
yeah, no one pays attention to that. And I'm not saying it's terrible, because there's several Godzilla movies where I find that the sound design is really good. It's just that tends to be the weak point of any Japanese movie, is the sound design. But like, if you watch the end fight to Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster with Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah and Mothra fighting, duking it out, if you watch that final battle on mute, it's ridiculous. It's funny. It's hysterical. Yeah. But with this, if you unmute it with Akira Fukube's music and that sound design, it somehow adds an oomph to it that no longer does it look ridiculous, even though it's the same exact shots. You're somehow drawn into it more.
Right. Now that makes a lot of sense, and to put it into a real world application with myself, I work at a chocolate factory, and I have to shoot and edit videos.
You do like all
recipes.
you do all
and so we had to do a little practice thing last week where we had to shoot something, make a 15-second long thing out of it, and then all of our coworkers were basically grading us to see out of us videographers who did the best one. Well, I did mine first, and I didn't put music in it, and a lot of people said, "Where's the music?" And my two colleagues, they did put music in theirs, and they got generally higher scores than me because they put music in it, and I didn't.
Yeah, well, no, a lot of it does come down to
not what I thought we were being graded on.
Yeah,
but,
well, stuff like that. Yeah,
we were only graded on visuals.
One of the areas that I think FM 132, what makes FM 132.9 to me, that movie that we made, not completely fall apart, is the fact that I think the sound design in that movie is pretty damn fucking solid.
Yeah, and when it comes to sound design,
it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I think it's pretty good. I think it's what keeps that movie together.
Yeah, and I think Pineapple is my favorite thing that we've worked on together. And I remember when you sent us like a rough draft, and I was like, "Oh, this looks awesome." And then you simply, in the second draft, all you did was add the thump thump heartbeat, thump thump throughout the whole thing, and that you barely hear it, but just that little thing makes the tension even that much higher.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sound design is huge, and don't underestimate it, please.
Well, that's why I'm scared shitless to start tackling Sierra.
Yeah, really.
The latest film, the latest big short film that we've shot was Sierra, which is almost a year old now. I am scared.
Next month, right?
I'm scared shitless to tackle that because the sound is going to be so important. Like by far, that's going to be the thing that makes or breaks the film is sound.
Yeah. The acting, for the most part. I mean, you guys have only seen really maybe screenshots from the page. But the acting was pretty good, and I'd like to think that my shooting was pretty good. The writing's pretty good.
No, it looks fine.
It looks fine. The attention to detail with the score and sound effects and audio is what's gonna either
the first
make
action
it or break
film.
it.
The first action film we've ever shot, really.
Yeah,
this
is
true
all action.
Yeah. That's
90%.
This is the first time. Yeah, this is the first time we've ever done anything like this.
We've done gunshots, but not
nothing like this.
No.
Where that's the whole film. To go back to you, if you look at it, if you look at the Heisei series, the two films that the audience, general G fans, tend to not attack are 84, which is technically Showa era, but whatever. 84 and Biollante. And I'm actually going to defend those two movies. I adore Biollante, and I like the first two acts of 84 until it turns into the most boring monster attack I've ever seen. But those two movies had really solid scripts behind them. That's the saving grace of those two movies, that I can argue that the other films don't have as good of scripts behind them. I could objectively say I don't think the scripts are as good, or as creative, I should say. Not as good, as creative. The next films are more kind of by the numbers in terms of like, there's a giant monster, we got to stop the giant monster, blah 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 blah. Godzilla versus Biollante, you've got assassins that are trying to go out there to kill you. They've got people trying to steal G-cells and everything like that. You've got countries trying to hack into each other and everything like that. There's all that with a backdrop of a giant monster destroying shit. So it's creative like that.
I feel like kind of kind of like how you said with the Borg. I'm getting a sense that movie maybe is a little bit better in your opinion because Godzilla is taking a little bit of a back seat.
Well, he's not. Yeah, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which I know a lot of fans spit vile at that movie. I adore it to no end. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah to me is the definition of Godzilla being the backdrop of the film, because everything with the plot revolves around him, without the characters needing to revolve around him. So like the character Shindo in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, one of my favorite human characters ever. During World War II, he was a commander on an island, right, of these Japanese soldiers, and he basically knows that they're done, and he's basically going to kill himself, commit seppuku, and he's going to have all the soldiers charge out in one last valiant ditch to save this island from the American onslaught. Well, lo and behold, a dinosaur shows up out of nowhere, this giant T-Rex looking thing, and totally, not only inadvertently saves the Japanese forces, but he drives the Americans off of the island. But that dinosaur gets horribly, horribly wounded in the fight. And so Shindo owes his life to that dinosaur, and thanks that dinosaur in a very emotional final scene on the island anyways. Well, that dinosaur turns out to be the monster that was mutated that turned into Godzilla. And so the Futurians take that dinosaur and move it so that way it doesn't get hit with a nuke and doesn't become Godzilla, effectively erasing Godzilla from history. So this is where the plot hole comes in. So if Godzilla is erased from history, then why does everybody remember what Godzilla is? That's the big plot hole with that movie.
That makes sense.
That is a problem. Luckily for me, the characters and the story itself and what happens is so good, I don't care as much.
Right.
I'm willing to buy it and go along with it. Because what's decided is the Futurians then create King Ghidorah instead. A monster that they can not only control, but... Well, that's their main thing. They can control King Ghidorah. Because they say they want to destroy Japan because Japan becomes a huge superpower. And, like, economically buys out, like, the whole world, essentially. And they want to stop that from happening. So they make King Ghidorah instead of Godzilla, a monster that they can destroy. And Shindo, who built Japan during the Reconstruction, he's a big tycoon, then says, we need to make another Godzilla. And he knows that Godzilla is the one that saved him. And so now he's damning Godzilla again to becoming that monster. And it's a really emotional scene where they meet eye to eye again. One last time. And Shindo is like, kill me. You have, in order for me to redeem myself, for you saving me, just kill me. And Godzilla doesn't want to do it. That's the only time in any of those films where you see Godzilla have like remorse for having to do something that he was born to do.
Right.
It's a great moment. That's great. That's fantastic stuff.
I need to watch at least some of these.
Oh, it's good, and the music score is phenomenal for that scene.
I appreciate you guys are not arguing, but commenting on whether or not I'm involved. And just because I'm not involved doesn't mean that I'm not interested. And it's not that I don't like Godzilla. Like we said, I've seen the most recent 4, and I think they're good movies, and I like the...
You saw Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is very Japanese.
Yeah.
And you like that.
We saw that twice, actually, I think.
I'm not sure if you came with me. I know I did.
I saw it with you, and then I saw it with Jake. So I did see it twice.
Okay.
I did see it twice.
Because I remember you saying to me that you liked it.
Yeah, I thought the editing style was different, but I liked it.
Crazy.
I liked that there really wasn't any filler. It was just...
Yeah, here's...
We're getting to the point. Let's do this. Moving on.
That's very unlike Godzilla, because a lot of Godzilla movies, the build-up is Godzilla coming back.
I liked it.
Which that's actually a question I want to ask all of you, and because I wanted to bring this up. Because, as a lot of you know, my Godzilla series I've been tackling with another rewrite. And I wanted to ask, what do you guys prefer with Godzilla? Do you guys prefer when Godzilla is, like, the driving force of the movie, or if he's more of like the backdrop of the film where the characters can fluctuate, sort of like the Borg, I mentioned that with the Borg,
right.
Or a zombie film where the zombies are sort of the backdrop, that looming dread. over the film itself.
I think I would want him to be the backdrop, but I wouldn't want him. I guess not be the hero, but also not be the villain. Like, he's just there doing his own thing, and he happens to do whatever he does.
I personally think, because now we have a benevolent Godzilla, a kind of good guy Godzilla with the MonsterVerse, I want to see him be fucking evil again. I want to see him be evil again.
I didn't like in what was it, King of the Monsters? That was the most recent one.
Yeah.
I didn't like that he was the hero. Like you're kind of just saying, I didn't really like that.
I did. I was on board because
I
before that he was kind of the villain. In the movies made in the 2000s, he was always kind of like the villain.
But was he? He wasn't he the one that was killing all the other kaijus?
That was in Final Wars. Final Wars had that. 2000 had that. But like GMK, he's certainly the villain. The one where he's embodied all the souls resurrect him. He's definitely the villain in that, and he's definitely the villain in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla.
I guess I'm more saying I don't want to see him be the hero. I would be more on board if he were.
You'd like him if he was benevolent. He's neither good nor bad. I do like the fact that they bring up in King of the Monsters where he's like, yeah, he's on our side for now.
For now.
I did like that. I really liked that.
Yeah.
But I like him as the backdrop to a story. Like, he's that looming dread of the story.
And I say that I like that, but I stopped watching The Walking Dead once it became people versus people, and it was no longer people.
That's the downside to a show. It can get very boring. The Borg were great for those two-parters, but that was like it.
Yeah,
that'd be great for a movie, and that's.
In Voyager, some of the best episodes are, like I said, when they find planets that have 5 defected Borg on them. What's the story? How can we help them be independent again?
Justin, you're wrong. Rebirth of Mothra 3, though fun, is not as good as Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. You are just wrong, sir.
Wrong. Shame on you.
Shame on you, sir.
You get the shame stick.
But no, yeah, to go on that, I've always... You get the screwdriver of doom.
When I picked this up, I thought it was much bigger.
I do have knives over here I could grab, but I don't want to. I'm lazy. I don't want to put them back, that's why. But yeah, we're going to be wrapping this up soon, because this is usually around the time that I end these.
So, I'm looking forward to Picard just because Jonathan Frakes is directing a couple episodes.
I know that they're in it.
He's in a couple episodes.
He's only in a couple. You see, I would only be on board if he was the main.
He is not a main character.
Damn it.
I am worried about the girl being the center focus. However, I think it's neither confirmed or denied, but the pointy-eared dude, I think he's a Romulan. And I would love to see what they do with that. It's not confirmed whether
another thing that they stop being consistent with. Romulans, what separates how you can tell a Romulan versus a Vulcan. Romulans have
the haircut.
No, the foreheads. They have
the bigger foreheads.
The bigger foreheads.
Yeah.
Though Star Trek has never really been consistent with that.
But I kind of like that you don't know if it is. No one knows if it's a Romulan or if it's a Vulcan. And going back into Enterprise and what it could have been with. Talking about the Romulans and why they're bad. Well, they're not really. They are bad.
They're the enemy.
But
yeah,
how they became that. I'd like to see Picard, who is a sworn enemy to the Romulans. I'd like to have a Romulan on his ragtag ship if they explain it well.
So it's very clear that this is ignoring Star Trek Online.
Yeah.
So this is officially making Star Trek Online not canon, kind of like how Star Wars, the Thrawn trilogy, which was the original stories that were to take place after the original trilogy, which are still, you can read them and listen to the audio, but they're phenomenal. They're really good. But Star Wars, Disney retcon those, so now they're just kind of glorified fan fiction. So now Star Trek Online is basically just going to be glorified fan fiction. And the only benefit that I have with that is that you can kind of pick and choose what's continuity and what's not now.
Yeah, I can see that.
Granted, Star Trek has a bad habit of doing that anyways.
So that's going to be, for me, last straw for Star Trek. And if it's not good, then I'm kind of not giving it any more chances because I already know Georgiou is getting her own show, which is Section 31 again.
That
stupid, absolutely stupid.
Section 31 should not have their own show.
Nope.
They're good. What they did with them in Deep Space Nine was perfect.
And
how they treated them.
And Enterprise, too, because...
oh my god, I totally forgot
Reed
they were in
was
there.
part of Section 31
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
But, dabbling in it, again, similar to the Borg, it's a backstory. They come in...
backdrop,
For one... Not backstory, yeah. They come in for one episode, 2 episode, and that's it. They're gone. That's the whole point. Yeah. You can't have a whole show.
They are the bigger story.
Right.
Where the smaller stories are what happens within the film itself, but they are the bigger story behind it.
Essentially, and here's how we can wrap it into the next thing, final thoughts, they are Grey Jedis. They do what has to be done.
I love Grey Jedis. I love the idea of Grey Jedis.
So, Star Wars movies, I think they're done for the next couple of years.
Yeah, they're
Mandalorian Season 2 is confirmed. Very excited for that. I think Clone Wars is getting another season as well, which is cool. I've never watched it, so I don't know. I did just get Disney Plus, so I do plan on watching some of it eventually.
I'm not hyped for any movies.
No Time to Die comes out.
Of course you are. You're the Bond guy. Bond is his thing. Like Godzilla is my thing. James Bond is his thing.
Yeah, I'm really big into Bond.
Which I like Bond too, by the way. I'll go see that with you. I'd love to go see that.
I'm a little bit concerned. Sidetracking here. Daniel Craig basically pulled a Robert Downey Jr. At the end of Spectre. He said, "I'm not coming back unless you pay me $30 million or whatever it was."
The entire budget of the film, basically.
And they said yes, so he's back, but only for the money. Whereas the first 3 films, I felt like he actually cared. I don't think he cares anymore, unfortunately. Although I don't think he's going to do bad, but I'm a little bit disappointed about that. And Godzilla.
I'm not. You know what? You know what's funny? I'm not hyped at all for Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah. I could care less. I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was such a fucking train wreck of a story.
Yeah.
That I don't care anymore.
I like Kong Skull Island the best of the ones that I've seen.
It's like the animated Godzilla 2014 for me. It's like the animated Godzilla series that came out, that trilogy. That was such a fucking mess. I haven't even seen the third one. I haven't seen the third one of those movies.
Speaking of animated series, Star Trek animated series was really bad. And I heard that they're reviving that too. I don't remember.
Well, I think that there might be an animated Star Trek show.
It's not the original series, but I think they're making.
That's not canon, anyways. That's the animated series is not canon.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. But that is on Metacritic the worst rated Star Trek thing.
As it should be.
It's sitting at like a 30. Yeah. Which is really
bad. The animation's so bad. Yeah. Even for the day. That was so bad. Anyways, now, the only movie that I can say that I'm really hyped for is 1917.
That's already out. Let's go see it.
Let's fucking go see it. I want it right now.
Alright, see you guys later.
See you guys later. No, but 1917 I'm really hyped for. Apparently that's one of those one-take movies where it's like everything's one shot.
That's what I heard too.
And now, I'm not a fan.
I don't think it's true.
No, it's not. It's not. But they're Birdmanning it.
Yeah, where they go to a black
thing, or whatever.
Or have a person walking.
Whatever. Now, I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. However, I've always said, even when Birdman was a thing, because to me that's Birdman's weakness, is it's all one shot. Mm-hmm. I said, if you're going to do that, it needs to be a movie that takes place in real time, and it needs to be a war film. A war film is like bread for those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm super hyped. That and it's World War I. We need more World War I movies. World War I to me is almost a more fascinating war than World War II.
My coworker Pete, I don't know if you're watching this, probably not, because this is nothing that you like. We've been saying that we might go see it, so
I want to see it. I really want to see it.
You, me. Sidetrack. I know we're trying to wrap this up. What do you think of 24? Because that takes place in real time, but it's not one show.
I like 24.
24 is a good show.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, it's been forever since I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I remember liking it.
I haven't seen it since
it's what... I remember it being what started getting me into that, like, takes place in real time stuff. Like, FM 132.9 takes place in real time.
Yep.
STG takes place in real time. The movie we shot here, Sierra, that takes place in real time.
10 minutes or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah. So it kind of got me obsessed with that. Or that's what kickstarted my interest in it. Anyways.
And you can wrap up with Godzilla, because I don't really have much to say about that.
No, I just think Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be a giant mess. I mean, I've said that before in things, but now that they're doing the reshoots and it's pushed back even further now, it's going to be the Rise of Skywalker, but with Godzilla in it. So, fuck that. So, yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up now and basically say bye-bye.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah, live long and prosper, you fucks.
I can do it with both hands. I can actually do it with every
I can do it with
finger.
Oh, I can't do that. Oh, maybe. Is this like the Vulcan middle finger? The Vulcan middle finger is that. It's like fucking live, die, and don't. Live, die, and become sterile.
Oh, that's probably a gang sign. No.
I know that this is the pleasure fingers.
Ponfar. Nice.
Uh-huh. But anyways, so you don't really have your own channel or anything. Everything you do basically revolves around what I do. I always drag him into my shit.
Yeah.
So how I usually repay these guys is with food. It's usually how I do it. And credit every once in a while.
Great order movement. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for No Time to Die.
I like the title.
I'm not, and the font and the little teaser that they put out originally is like a calling to Dr. No, which was really cool. The only thing that I'm not really looking forward to,
maybe
like,
Dr. No's the villain.
Like I said, Daniel Craig did basically hold the movie hostage for like $30 million, and the other thing that I'm not really looking forward to is the female African American being 007. Not because I'm sexist or racist. I would actually love for Idris Elba to be the next Bond.
Oh, I would love it if he was Bond.
Ian Fleming specifically said that Bond is a man, and you can say it's a code name all you want. That's totally fine, but James Bond is a code name.
Yeah, Martin, we did.
It's not Jane Bond. It's James Bond. So that's my thought.
I just wish she was just a 00 agent.
That would be fine. If she was 008,
009, 006, 002, I don't care.
I think 6 was already Alec.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was.
I know that one of the 00 agents gets killed in one of the old Bond movies.
Yeah. I think it was 6.
He's dressed up as a clown.
Which is Alec.
We spoiled the crap out of The Rise of Skywalker, Martin. So
sorry.
But anyways, this will be up also if you're curious to listen. This will be up later on demand. You can come back and skip to whatever you want to listen to us ramble about mainly Star Trek and then Godzilla towards the end. So, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Absolutely thank you guys for participating in the chat. Like us on Facebook, follow our website. Social media is usually listed in below. It will be listed below a little bit later. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for being here, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
You'll be seeing him again. I'm not sure if it'll be in Frugal Filmmaking, but you'll be seeing him again. Yeah. So, 2020 is going to be an interesting year.